Hurry up, he's got to go faster.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Sunday, February 24th, 2019. This is your award-winning Gitmo Nation Media Assassination episode 1115.
This is No Agenda.
Braving the chills of the tundra and broadcasting live from the capital of the fields of opportunity here in downtown Des Moines, Iowa, in an Airbnb. In the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where I can barely hear you, by the way, I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
Yeah, pay no attention to it if you can hear me or not. It's only when something loud is going on.
Yes.
Yes, in the morning.
That was corrected.
In the morning, sir. In the morning to you.
In the morning to you. In the morning to all ships at sea and boots on the ground, feet in the air, and the subs to water, days and nights out there.
Well, you are very chipper today.
Yeah, I got up. You know when you get up at the exact right time?
Yeah.
Without the alarm going off.
Okay. Yes.
So you get up 10 minutes too early, you're kind of groggy. You get up 10 minutes too late, you're kind of groggy.
Yeah.
You can't hit it. You hit it very rarely. Once in a while, you get up at exactly the right time.
I don't have these problems.
Oh, yeah.
No.
You do.
No, I don't. I don't. I really don't. Yeah, so I'm here in Des Moines, Iowa, John.
As they like to call it, Des Moines.
Yes, Des Moines.
The locals call it Des Moines.
They do not. They absolutely do not call it Des Moines. In fact, quite the opposite. They insist you never pronounce the S.
Ah.
Yeah, I don't know who told you this, but it's not true.
It was a local.
Well, anyway, we're here in literally in downtown Des Moines, which is completely dead in the weekend. There's nothing going on here. And besides the fact that it is 11 degrees outside.
And you think maybe that's part of the reason?
No, I think this all, Des Moines is very interesting. It's the insurance capital of the country. So it's all basically financial companies that are downtown. And have you been to Des Moines?
Yeah, of course I have. I've been to not only to Des Moines, I went to the outskirts and went to the bridges of Madison County.
I love the skywalk system they have here.
Okay.
So you have not been to. If you've been, then you know about the skywalk system.
I was there in the summertime. I wasn't paying much attention to the skywalk.
Okay, so downtown, there's an entire downtown area. All the buildings are connected by these enclosed, bridges that go from building to building, so you can walk throughout the downtown area without actually going outside.
Snow.
Yeah, I guess Minneapolis has that as well. I think they might. Des Moines might have stolen it from Minneapolis.
Well, it's not as though these cities don't have these alternate routes. I mean, in Toronto and even Edmonton and also Montreal, they have all this underground network where you can walk all downtown without ever coming above ground.
Right. Well, it's no luxury here, I'll tell you. My goodness. It is so cold, biting cold. It's just crazy. But as you can tell, I'm in a very large open space. It's kind of echoey here in the Airbnb that we got in downtown, which has a very loud heating system. So loud, in fact, that it kind of rivaled the air conditioner in the Airstream of Consciousness. So I have to turn it off during the show. I only have a sweater on now, but I'm pretty sure within about 30 to 45 minutes the temperature is going to drop pretty significantly here.
My remembrance of Des Moines is that it is that area you're talking about is all buildings, business offices, and the like.
Yeah, exactly.
There's actually somebody living there somehow.
Yeah, this is there's what used to be a hotel called the Kirkwood Hotel. They turned it into
I see. Okay.
into condos, and of course, no one actually lives here in the condo, so it's just Airbnbs, and it's really affordable. And by the way, the hotels were completely booked.
Gee, it's affordable with 11 degrees. I wonder why.
But
they're booked.
All the hotels were booked. The hotels downtown.
Well, they have a big convention going on.
I don't know what's going on.
The convention.
I don't know what it is. I know Tulsi
Air
Gabbard.
Conditioning.
No, Tulsi Gabbard was in town for 3 days, which I didn't know. And of course, we had the wedding yesterday, so I couldn't go check it out. But I doubt that all the hotels were full just for her.
It seems unlikely.
So there's probably something
going on. Why was she? Oh, that's right. Iowa's the first. Yeah, they're gonna have
Yeah, Des Moines. Des Moines is everyone goes to Des Moines, and what's the other? Oh, come on,
Fairview.
No, Oh, in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
No, not New Hampshire. Come on. Everyone has to start their political campaign. You always have to go to Des Moines. Is it Des Moines and New Hampshire?
Yeah, those are the two that first start things off usually.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know why. I'm not quite sure why Des Moines
because
works.
Those are the ones that's the first round of elimination, especially in New Hampshire. If you can't come at first, second, or third, you're going to have nothing but trouble.
Okay. Well,
Des Moines you can take a pass on that. You can take a pass on Iowa. It's caucuses. It's not the same.
right. Well,
When the people come out to vote in New Hampshire, then they've made a decision.
Okay. So we had our big Iowa meetup on Friday.
Yes, I understand it was a huge success.
It was incredibly successful. I think it's the largest one we've had to date. We didn't get a complete head count because the venue was kind of large and there were other people. But I would say we were at least 70, maybe a few more over the course of 4 hours. Was it three? Yeah, more than 3 hours, I think. This was really, really a good one. People came from all over the place, from Minnesota, from Kansas, Tennessee. Well, Sir Patrick Coble, of course, came in from Tennessee. We had people from Indiana, from Chicago. It was mind-boggling. People driving 4 or 5 hours to come to the meetup and going back the same night.
Yeah, they're hardy there in the Midwest.
They're dedicated. They really are. It was a great venue too. The hall, which is it's an interesting place. It's where they used to repair trains, or they train cars, and they could roll them into this building and work on them, and then turn them onto a different track. And half of the building is a nonprofit teaching people how to do different kinds of vocational jobs, and they fund that with this, basically the hall, a big beer hall. And we kind of took over a whole part, and people were really, interested in what we were doing, thinking we were a cult. Especially when one of our producers, he was ready for a knighting, and he brought his accounting. This was Paul Richardson. And he said, "Hey, so I have the final check here for my knighthood. Can we do it here live?" I said, "Of course we can." I said, "Oh, good, because I got a sword in my car." I said, "Bring it in." So we're brandishing swords in this hall.
I saw that the tweet about you doing this, and I said, "What is Adam? Adam does drag his sword around with him."
This was not my sword. It was a family sword. Been in his family for, I don't know, decades, or maybe longer. It was very unique, to say the least. So we'll be I guess we'll do a little segment and mention a couple people in a little bit as we first get started. I see we had an interesting crossover, in particular on the Di-Fi and the child abuse clips. This was quite amazing what happened with the Sunrise movement.
Yeah. I found it to be it's child abuse.
Yes. Well, you want to set it up, because once I saw you had the clips, I didn't have much to add, but I do think it's important to let everyone hear what was going on with this.
Well, I don't have the complete set, but I have a lot. I have what I thought was the important clips. So what happened was some teacher, she was some 24-year-old. She said she was 24 when they're bitching and moaning about the kids not voting for Feinstein. Some teacher had gotten her class to do a big project of writing this huge letter, giant, like one of those giant checks. Well, there's a giant letter, encouraging Feinstein to vote yes on the Green New Deal.
Now, these were kids who were what, like 12, 15?
They're 12-year-olds, and there's a couple older kids, but this teacher was the instigator. It's pretty obvious. And she had convinced these kids, you could tell by the way the kids were talking, that they're all going to die in 12 years.
Oh, gosh.
And something needs to be done now. And, of course, I don't know if she taught the kids that this bill, quote unquote, is actually just a resolution that really doesn't do anything, except, kind of has a hopeful kind of a thing behind it. it's hopeful of the following. It's hopeful that we stop all air traffic, only take trains. And I should mention to people, just because we talked about this before, the passenger train business peaked. It didn't peak in 1955. It didn't peak in 1945. It peaked in 1929. And somehow they want to revitalize it, like the California high-speed rail, which had to be canceled because it was cost overruns were ridiculous. In other words, the progressives are not progressive. They're progressives would be pushing for, it seems to me, if you're progressive looking toward the future, you would go for supersonic transport.
Hypersonic or something like that. Yes.
Anything but trains.
Yeah.
But that's okay. The whole thing has got these kids all jacked up. So let's play a few of the clips. This clip has got the kids preparing to go in, then it cuts over to them, I think, making their first statement. This is
number one.
Yeah. Go in and share this letter, and we're going to do it all together. Yeah. Share it in front of Feinstein. Okay. We're asking her to vote yes on the Green New Deal.
We are trying to ask you to vote yes on the Green New Deal.
Please.
So there's the kids.
Did you see the full 14 minutes of the whole video?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, because I actually pulled a couple of very short
clips.
You
have some alternative clips.
Yeah.
But first of all, there's such lack of respect by the kids. By the way, I love the way the Twitterverse took it. Oh, Feinstein's a douchebag. Because she was a douchebag, but it wasn't. She was forced into being one. But the kids, it's not, we're going to take it in front of Senator Dianne Feinstein or Miss Feinstein, Mrs. Feinstein, whatever you want to call her. No, Feinstein.
Well, they get that from the parents, from the adults in the room. That's where they get that non-etiquette from, Feinstein. You just
Feinstein.
know it.
Let's give it in front of Feinstein.
Yeah.
I don't know. I found it to be anti-Semitic. But okay.
Wait, whoa. Stop. What did you find to be anti-Semitic?
It's a Jewish name, and you just use the Jewish-ness of the name.
I got a segment for you later on.
It seemed to be insulting. It was rude.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. It was rude. All right.
So let's go to 2.
Some scientists have said that we have 12 years to turn this around.
Well, it's not going to get turned around in 10 years. What we can do,
Senator, if this doesn't get turned around in 10 years, you're looking at the faces of the people who are going to be living with these consequences.
That was the teacher, and she was the most abhorrent of the group. Oh, you're looking at the faces of the people who are going to be living with the consequences. She's egged these kids on, told them that they're all going to die in 12 years. And
to be fair, John, it's not just the teacher. We've talked about this. This is being rammed into kids' heads everywhere on television. It's in cartoons. It's all over the place. It's not just the teacher.
Yes, it is just the teacher, in my opinion. Here's why. Shouldn't the teacher be backing these kids off from this nihilistic look at life and saying, hey, no, you're just fine. You're not going to die.
What if the teacher also believes it?
Goads them into going in to see Feinstein?
Let's just set something up. This was not just one teacher. This was the Sunrise Movement, of which one of them was a teacher. There were parents there who were with the Sunrise Movement. There were people there who were not teaching these kids, but were in the group. And by the way, they didn't have an appointment. They just walked in. Talk about rude. So it's the Sunrise Movement who believes this, believes the government assessment, which was all over the news, told everybody if we don't turn this around in 12 years, then it's going to be irreversible. And that's what AOC is all about and her Green New Deal. So,
the first time we heard the same thing was about 1989 when we have clips, we have quotes that you have 10 years to live. So by the year 2000, we're already. Oh,
I'm not arguing that, but at this very moment, it has been so propagandized that, and this is Feinstein, not being anti-Semitic, Di-Fi, said some very good things to these kids, but she's too chicken shit to actually say you're not going to die in 12 years. That's the part that I found reprehensible from her.
Well, I found a number of reprehensible things. Well, of course, she's a Democrat, so she has to kind of deal with this. The teacher should be a teacher and not just a cheerleader for dying in 12 years. I found her to be extremely offensive.
Well, hold on 1 second. Let me play you 27 seconds of these kids and the teacher talking about skipping school. And if you listen carefully, they cut school for this day. All the teachers were on board. It was part of you can hear the kids saying, yeah, it's part of the global strike, which means they know about the kids in Brussels who are all bundled up and all, protesting global warming. It's spreading all over Europe. It's not really discussed that much, but this was a truancy operation.
You guys all skip school?
Yeah.
Our teachers. My teachers on strike.
We're doing global strike for climate.
What Oakland schools do you guys
Of the day.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm from Oakland. So.
Support Oakland teachers.
Yes, exactly. That's awesome. I have a friend who works for the LA Unified School District, and they did a similar thing. Yeah. But she was very excited, and supposedly all the parents were super supportive, and the kids were very happy to come back to school, though.
So it's okay. Kids can skip school if it's for this cause.
Yeah,
not for any other.
You're right. This is a truancy operation. These people should be jailed.
Okay, yeah, sure. Why
Whatever
not?
happened to the old truancy officer?
Jail him.
All right, come along. Get back in the paddy wagon, kids. Get in there. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the olden days. They won't do that anymore. No. You can just take off when you feel like it so you can bitch about global warming. All right, here's my last clip.
I was elected by almost 1 million vote plurality, and I know what I'm doing. So, maybe people should listen a little bit.
I hear what you're saying, but we're the people who voted you. You're supposed to listen to us. That's your...
I love the lack of English grammar. We're the people that voted you. I think that was...
I like that, too.
That was fantastic.
Voted you. You're supposed to listen to us. That's your,
How old are
your
you?
job.
How old
I'm
are
16.
You?
I
Well,
can't
you didn't vote for me.
Well,
Boom.
I'm 24.
It doesn't matter. We're going to be the one who's all impacted.
I understand that. I have 7 grandchildren. I understand it very well.
Senator, the cost of not taking this action is far higher than the cost of what the Green New Deal
This is the Sunrise Movement representative.
will be. And there is enormous popularity for this bill around the whole country. And we're asking you to be brave and do this for us and for your grandchildren.
All right, good. I have some complimentary clips.
No, wait. I got to say something.
Yeah, of course.
First of all, this woman says it's going to cost less. The Green New Deal is going to cost. Yes, the Green New Deal is going to cost nothing because it's just a resolution. That is never brought up. These kids don't even know. They think that Feinstein votes for this. The next thing you know, global warming's over.
Well, not entirely true. Well, the kids may not know it, but the Sunrise Movement person, whether she's a teacher or a parent, she knew exactly what was going on here. And I have a feeling there were different video recordings because you probably would have clipped this if you had heard this. This is here's the lady talking just before they're getting ready to get kicked out, which I also have. Listen to what she says here.
Senator, we know that no plan is going to pass right now while the Republicans control the Senate. This is a long game. We need to be doing this to unite the Democratic Party. I don't know if you've noticed, but voters haven't been particularly energized the last couple of years. We need something to fight for. Your constituents are asking you for this, and I really believe, and tens of thousands, millions of people around the country are asking for this online. They're calling you. Your phone lines are blocked up.
Look, I understand all of this. And I'm trying to do the best I can, which was to write a responsible resolution.
Any plan that doesn't take bold, transformative action is not going to be what we need.
Well, you know better than I do. So I think one day you should run for the Senate.
No, actually, I did hear that. I didn't clip it, though.
I like that one.
It is pretty funny.
You should run, bitch.
But that's just her being, a jerk.
No, she was right. I mean, she even said to these kids. She was right,
but why didn't the following take place? She has people who could strategize this. The kids come in with the letter, the big giant letter, and Fine says, "Oh, this is so wonderful, this giant letter. I'm going to take it. We're going to go over this letter. We're going to frame it and put it in the office. This is great. I have a meeting, and hopefully you guys can be in touch with me in the future.
That's not how it went. That is how they got rid of her. Listen, I got the clip of how they kicked the kids out as they want to present this letter. Now she's been talking with them for 10 minutes, and again,
big giant letter.
The only thing she had to say was, "It's just not true. You're not going to die in 12 years." And she knows it, and I can prove it, which I'll do in a moment. But here they are getting ready to kick the kids out.
Can they read this to you, though?
Yeah, I can read it.
Before they read it,
I do read.
Just taking a stand and not voting present, not saying present when you are asked what you believe on the future of the most catastrophic.
What is this not voting present thing? What is that? Is that some kind of abstention, or
you can vote present? That's what Obama did all of his years in the Senate.
So you don't actually vote; you just say, "I'm here."
Yeah.
So
you're not abstaining. Then they can't accuse you of abstaining.
But what the Sunrise movement person is saying is, please don't just say you're present. And she says, I can say.
She's to Obama.
Can they read this to you, though?
Yeah, I can read it.
Before they read it,
I do read.
Just taking a stand and not voting present, not saying present when you are asked what you believe on the future of the most catastrophic event that's facing our species. You have a chance to say yes, knowing that we won't pass the Senate. But as a leader,
why can't you try?
I may. I don't know. I may vote present.
That would, if you
And
vote
that-
yes, it is much, much, much different than saying present.
Oh, I understand all that.
And that is what they're asking. So if they can just have a voice to read that out to you.
Here it comes. Can we read? No.
And then sit with that opportunity, knowing
Look,
that they know
I
it's
have
not
a
going
group
to
of
be
people that's come from a long place away to come
They
in.
have decades of life they hope to still have in your leadership.
That doesn't work with me. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
You want to present that?
Yeah. Goodbye.
Thank you.
All right.
Read it out.
Dear Senator Feinstein,
Come on. We can read it.
We can read it, believe it or not.
please do not.
We're gonna read it too.
Senator Feinstein, I appreciate you meeting as a mother of this young child. I can say that I really hope that you follow the lead of these young people, and I think it's the best chance at really giving them a life.
Thank you.
Let's just have 9-year-olds run the country.
We need your leadership, Dianne
Follow the
Feinstein.
lead of these young people. The 9-year-olds run the country.
All right, so everyone's had a lot of fun, some good fun with with this video. But did you have a chance to look at her resolution, the one she handed to these kids?
No.
Oh, well, this is the no agenda way. I'd like to review a little bit of Dianne Feinstein's draft climate change resolution. It differs somewhat from the Green New Deal.
Well, it probably leaves out the part about cow farts.
Yeah, it doesn't have that, but there's some more important differences. The change, so a resolution. This is a resolution. It just says here's the stuff we agree on, and here's the stuff we say we're going to do. It doesn't do anything else. It's just kind of an agreement, and is used as a, dare I say, a framework to start creating legislation from. So Congress finds.
Yes, you may dare say.
I dare say. I may dare say. Congress finds that the climate is changing as a result of human activities, primarily the combustion of fossil fuels. The changes in climate projected in the coming decades threaten rapid, widespread, concurrent, and long-lasting increases in heat waves, wildfire, disease, drought, crop failure, sea level rise from loss of glaciers, and collapse of ice sheets, ocean acidification, mass extinction, and collapse of food chains, mass population migrations, and human conflict. That sounds kind of groovy.
Yeah.
Changes in the climate are already evident that since the beginning of the 20th century,
Yes.
the atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide has increased by more than 1/3. Global average temperatures have increased by more than a full degree Fahrenheit. And then she goes into some interesting examples. California and since you live out there, California from 2011 to 2017 was likely made 15 to 20% more intense by global warming. The drought in California was likely made 15 to 20% more intense by global warming. What do you think?
Likely?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of likely. The next line. The rainfall in Texas during Hurricane Harvey in 2017 was likely increased 15 to 19% due to climate change. And the area burned by wildfire in the western United States between 1984 and 2015 was doubled due to climate change, among other indications. I mean, this is really a very wishy-washy, fuzzy little thing we're supposed to agree upon. But here's what she says we should do. Number 1, instituting a price on carbon. Yeah, Di-Fi, we know what you're going for. Yes. Let's see where she differs from the Green New Deal. Completing the transition to zero emissions electricity sources to electric drive surface transportation systems. So she's just talking about, not about airplanes. And also, we need to have efficient systems for transmission, distribution, and storage of electricity. Yes, of course we do. And by the way, she wants all of this to take place by 2050. And this is why...
We'll all be dead by then.
This is why she's chicken shit. The United States shall reduce net greenhouse gas emissions to zero as soon as possible and by no later than 2050. Now, this is great. This is why it was originally 2030. We predicted this 5 years ago because 2030, a lot of the old politicians then really weren't going to maybe be in office in 2030. And Dianne Feinstein, she won't be alive in 2050. So she can make any resolution she wants. No one's going to call her on it. That's why this 2050 number is here. We will need to resume the development of energy-efficient standards for ceiling fans, walk-in coolers, freezers, uninterruptible power supplies, portable air conditioners, boilers, central air conditioners, light bulbs, and other appliances. Also, she would like to maintain the coordinated national program of fuel economy and vehicle emission standards, which should exceed 50 miles per gallon. But every car needs to do that by 2025. We must remain a party to the Paris Climate Agreement, reinstate the interagency working group on the social cost of carbon, and then rebuild our infrastructure to be more resilient to extreme weather, fortify coastal communities against sea level rise, identify alternative supplies of drinking water, develop crops and agricultural practices that will maintain a reliable supply of food. Hello, Monsanto. Prepare the public health system for greater risks of vector-borne diseases, asthma, heat stroke, and other health hazards. Hey, how about hypothermia? Seeing as the climate change is causing this cold snap. Well, it's not in there. And then the part that AOC would like to hear. The United States shall ensure a just and equitable transition for all communities, including guaranteeing pensions for workers in the coal, oil, and gas industry, and providing meaningful training for new economic opportunities within their own communities. And you know what that means?
Learn to code.
Learn to code, exactly. Ensuring that the infrastructure investments required to migrate and adapt to climate change will offer good, high-wage paying jobs in the United States.
Yeah.
Respect the needs and wisdom of local communities in planning infrastructure, especially communities that have historically been marginalized or oppressed, including indigenous people, communities of color, migrant communities, deindustrialized communities, depopulated rural communities, the poor, low-income workers, women, the elderly, the unhoused, people with disabilities, and youth. Who is not in that group, that list? As everybody but old white men. Yeah. Everybody's in there but us. And then finally, we commit to minimizing the extent and speed of climate change, which will initially, this is the last sentence of the whole document. Minimizing the extent and speed of climate change, which will initially harm the most vulnerable individuals and communities disproportionately and will eventually imperil all society. Help me
What does that even mean?
Help me understand this sentence. So again,
take a look out the window.
How were those mud flats?
Actually, the mud flats right now are bigger than I've ever seen.
Oh, well.
So there must be some glue. I guess Australia's sponge is sucking up the ocean.
So to me, it sounds like she's saying we're screwed no matter what.
Well, why don't you read it again?
Okay, so I'll read the heading. The United States shall ensure a just and equitable transition for all communities, including by minimizing the extent and speed of climate change, which will initially harm the most vulnerable individuals and communities disproportionately and will eventually imperil all society. So it sounds like
it's going to eventually imperil. Eventually, she uses that word.
Yeah.
That's the kicker.
Yeah.
Eventually imperil all society. That you're right. It makes
whether
it
you
sound
do
like
something
we're
or not.
Screwed.
Yeah, whether you do something. Well, it's a draft. Maybe she still needs to work on it.
Yeah, she needs to throw it away.
Anyway, I thought the whole thing was.
It was comic.
Sad. It was sad. I'm sad about these children. I really am. It's
kids have projects. They get it. When you're older, you'd look back on them and say, I was dumb.
But do you think that these kids who are hearing this stuff, that they really, they don't, they're like, it's not really, we're not really going to die. It's not really going to be horrible. Or do they really believe it?
I think a bunch of them do believe it, but I think most of them are just kids.
Well,
I mean, when I was a kid, you have to remember I was the duck and cover generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Oh, okay. All right. Hold on. Tell me specifically duck and cover. Tell me what did that have any effect on you? Were you worried at the time?
I don't remember being worried to this extent these kids are about global warming. I mean, yeah, but Russians are going to bomb us. Okay, let's go over that period. There was a number of factors going on. It wasn't until the fission bomb came out that most of this ended. People just threw their arms in the air and said, screw it. That's a thermonuclear bomb, which means it was a fission bomb that set off an H-bomb, which set off a bunch of cheap uranium, which poisoned the earth for the next, 100 years. Before that bomb was invented, which was the discussion of this is in a book by Linus Pauling called No More War, which is really a good read if you can find a copy. Anyway, before that, they were having us, well, you duck, don't look at the fireball and, duck, get under the desk. That's going to help. Yeah, don't look at the fireball because your eyes will
I wonder
melt.
if I have that jingle, the duck and cover. I bet I do somewhere.
And so then during that same era, there was people were selling fallout shelters, and there was always somebody in the neighborhood, a couple of people in the neighborhood who bought these things.
Hey,
They'd bring out a big construction rig and dig a huge hole in their backyard and drop in a big tank, which had an entrance to it. And these things are still out there in the Midwest and throughout the West Coast and the suburbs, mostly suburbs. And they're used as, root storage. You put your canned goods down pantries, virtual pantries.
Let me see. I think I might have one of the original duck and cover jingles that you kids were indoctrinated with.
That schools have developed protocols and they actually train and they drill on what to do. Talk to me.
No, that's not it. I thought we had that somewhere.
I think we do. Anyway, I just continue.
Okay.
So it was like, it seemed as though the world was going to blow up. And looking back on it, I had other concerns.
Like getting laid?
Well, mostly like, should I kiss this girl? What would she do? I mean, it was the concern about getting killed by a nuke, which was going to wipe everybody out, really wasn't something that was at the top of the list of things to think about. And then it just doesn't. Yeah, you duck and cover and you look at somebody's bomb shelter and then it
didn't affect you adversely. It did not affect you adversely is what you're saying.
I don't believe it did.
Well,
I think it was looking back on it, I can see that it was semi-humorous, but I can't see these kids being any different than any kids.
Well, I think if you take this threat, which you really can't see, I think that's comparable to the nuclear bomb that, we really don't know. It's never, will it really happen? There is other child abuse going on as we speak. This took place this past week in Florida.
Stephanie Kearns, her daughter Sydney, and one of Sydney's classmates are all able to hug each other after what they describe as a stressful day at Palatka High School. Sydney Kearns says the stress began when an emphatic voice over the intercom alerted students and staff that an intruder was on campus.
They said it was a man in a black hoodie with jeans.
The school went into lockdown. Sydney says she and her classmates rushed into a back room in a separate building on campus. She says the lights to the room were turned off. Students and teachers had no idea this was an active shooter drill. How real was it?
It was very real. Like, people were banging on the doors, kids were crying, saying let me in, and they would not let them in. They had to go in the bathrooms and hide.
Sydney says she and other students were texting their parents.
Well, I was freaking out. I was at work, and I was like, oh my gosh.
I spoke with one student off camera who said the drill was so realistic that she had an anxiety attack. She says she looked over and noticed some of her teachers also having panic attacks. And And this is why, on one hand, Stephanie Kearns is worried about unannounced active shooter drills.
I mean, I can appreciate them doing drills, but, I know there is some kids that they suffer from anxiety attacks or panic attacks or just different issues.
On the other hand, she agrees with unannounced drills to better prepare students for a real emergency.
If they tell everyone it's a drill, are they really going to take it seriously?
School officials issued a Facebook statement saying they wanted to see authentic reactions from students and employees to see possible flaws and make necessary changes. The drill was handled very well.
Bull. I find this amazing. I mean, people can get hurt with these unannounced drills.
I'm waiting for when somebody dies from a heart attack or something during one of these drills, because people die of heart attacks every time,
Sure.
Somebody drops dead from one of these drills and unexpectedly and sues the school district for everything they're worth with millions of dollars, and then their insurance rate goes skyrocketing after that because the insurance company will pay the first one, but they're not going to put up with this going on for long. And so you end up with it costing the public a lot of money because they won't eat it. It's just the public that has to eat it with these higher taxes. This is unacceptable.
And I'll say that what I think is, the fallout from this is it's one thing to be, this magical climate change, which is going to kill you because it's going to be so warm and we're sitting here with our sweaters on. But kids who are in school, in colleges, John, they really are traumatized by this because they're told it can happen at any moment. Can happen to their school at any moment. And then you get a drill that's unannounced. I think that's pretty irresponsible.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, kids are abused all the time, and they love it when the truth comes out. CNBC. CNBC.
How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World opens in theaters nationwide this weekend from Universal Pictures and DreamWorks, which, along with CNBC, is a subsidiary of Comcast. So at a time when kids are watching less traditional TV and TV commercials, how is the studio promoting this film and others? Well, they've asked us to ask Julia Borston. She's on the Oscar red carpet with a look. Julia.
Pay attention now.
Well, Kelly, DreamWorks Animation is not relying on commercials, but rather going to where kids and teenagers spend their time to drive word of mouth and also social chatter.
Where kids spend their minds. Yeah, the truth always wants to come out.
They spend their minds.
They spend their minds on the social medias. Yes, that's exactly right. That's where they spend their minds, and you're there corrupting them. All right, just to get off the Green New Deal, I don't know if you saw this one last bit from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who had to fight back against this die-fi deal because this is unacceptable. And here's how she said that in, I think there's actually a rare appearance in New York.
And I read it and I was like, you know what? I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. Because, again, I'm at least trying and they're not. So the power is in the person who's trying, regardless of the success. If you're trying, you've got all the power. You're driving the agenda. You're doing all this stuff. Like, I just introduced Green New Deal 2 weeks ago, and it's creating all of this conversation. Why? Because no one else has even tried. So people are like, oh, it's unrealistic. Oh, it's vague. Oh, it doesn't address this little minute thing. And I'm like, you try. You do it.
Right.
Because you're not. So until you do it, I'm the boss.
That's
How
right.
about that?
You heard it here.
I like how she kind of turns into Jenny from the block. You do it. Oh, really? You do it. And all of a sudden, there's the Latina coming out in her.
It was a group effort that came up with this thing, not her. She says, when I saw when she introduced, it was a whole group of people, and they all went up and said something. Yeah. She should have said when we introduced. She's not a team player. She's going to be sorry.
No, we'll see. I don't know.
If I was one of the members of the group that introduced the Green New Deal, but I'm not such a loudmouth like she is, I'd be irked by that comment that I did it. I introduced it. I wrote it. She didn't do that. It's bull crap.
Well, she's taken the glory for whatever it is, for whatever it's worth.
Whatever glory that
whatever
is.
glory there is, yeah. All right, we've been talking about anti-Semitism. You and I have seen this accusation rise significantly in just the past month. Everywhere there's anti-Semitism. It's anti-Semitic. Let's start here at
they're
home.
They're trying to turn the yellow vest into anti-Semitism.
Here we go. PBS NewsHour with Jonathan Greenblatt. He is the executive director of the Anti-Defamation League.
If the president and his supporters and anyone who is doing what Deborah refers to as these dog whistle calls, if they all went silent, the hatred and the bigotry that is anti-Semitism would still exist, wouldn't it?
Well, of course. Anti-Semitism is often called the oldest hatred. It's been a persistent problem for centuries, some would argue even millennia. But the issue is this, and we know this from the words of the white supremacists themselves, the David Dukes, the Richard Spencers, the Andrew Anglins. These individuals, with their poisonous prejudice, they have celebrated online when they've seen terms like America First or globalist, or more recently, nationalist, end up literally in the talking points of candidates and officials themselves. And I do want to say something, and this is important. This is not political. After Charlottesville, we saw leaders from the Republican Party and the Democratic Party call this out. However, this demands not just saying something in response to an incident, but rather it's the climate leaders create every single day. And we need people in positions of authority across the board. Keep in mind, the 57% increase included a 90% increase of acts of anti-Semitism on college campuses. So whether you're the president of a university or the president of the United States, people in positions of authority need to shut this down as soon as they hear it.
So now we have...
Wait.
This is an interesting transition.
Wait. You didn't let it play out when he has to also add Farrakhan and the women, the new Muslim members of the Congress.
That's so weird. I didn't find that in the clip.
Well, how come Farrakhan was left out? He's openly anti-Semitic, and so are some of these newer women that just came into the scene.
No. You have it all wrong. You see, it's the white nationalists, which is really nationalist. So let's just break it down, which is really, I guess, he didn't say patriotic, but that was all that was missing there. He's just twisting it.
Who is this guy? How could he miss the obvious?
He's the director of the Anti-Defamation League. He's the go-to guy for this.
He doesn't care about Farrakhan.
Well, notice white nationalists. If you claim to be a white nationalist, what do you think you're mainly against? People who are not white, but for some reason that's now Jews.
Oh,
you see, this
reminds me about one time. This is like months and months ago on Horowitz and Dvorak DH Unplugged. Horowitz says, "What? When did I not become white?"
Yeah.
He's Jewish.
Yeah. No, he's not white.
He's irked about it.
Well, I'm sorry. He can't. He's not in our white club. Go away. Okay, so we're talking the same week. We have this on PBS NewsHour. Friday night, I guess it is, Bill Maher on his HBO show has an old friend of ours who we have not seen for years, Bernard-Henri Lévy.
Yeah.
Who is this guy? He's French.
I can't remember.
Yes, he's the French intellectual douchebag.
Yeah, he's a French. That's what he is. He's a French intellectual douchebag.
Oh, okay.
Bernard Lévy. Let me look him up. I forgot all about this guy.
Yeah, he was in the news. It must have been 6 years ago. He was all over the place. And anyway, so he is accentuating the anti. You got him. You remember him, right?
Well, vaguely.
Well, he was in the news a lot back in the day. I should look up when we last played a clip from him. Anyway, he's on Bill Maher.
Nouveau Philosophie.
Yes. And he's there to basically connect the dots between anti-Semitism and the yellow vests. And it's the same stuff.
What?
Yeah. Here, listen. Here he comes. Listen to this.
What's going on? Every day I read in the paper about the yellow jackets in France. It started out as a protest against high gas prices.
Yeah, not just high gas prices, Bill. You can go ahead and say it was against a carbon tax, but, you just can't bring yourself to say it, can you?
What's going on? Every day I read in the paper about the...
I know, I was being sarcastic, but I'd had to.
Yellow jackets in France. It started out as a protest against high gas prices, I think. And it seems to have morphed into something darker with elements of anti-Semitism. Why does everything in Europe wind up being something involved with anti-Semitism?
Oh, I like what he does. Bill Maher is good here. Why is everything in Europe anti-Semitic? They're all Jew haters all over Europe. Why is that? Come on.
In Europe and also sometimes in America.
Yes.
Remember Pittsburgh. Remember all these millions of Twitters that preceded and followed the election of Donald Trump. You want a competition between America and Europe? I don't advise. I don't like this sort of... No, there is today what is true. And again, it is, I don't want to make too much advertisement, but it is the topic of my book. There is a real wave and tide of populism. Populism means also, is the nickname, a gentle name for fascism, therefore for anti-Semitism.
Okay, let's... Populism is the nickname...
You get clip of the day on that one.
I knew you'd love it. Clip of the day. Let's just break this down. So a minute ago...
Rivers, you like Adam Curry, you're a Jew hater.
That's pretty much it. First we heard... white nationalist is globalist, is anti-Semitic. Now we're hearing populism is fascism, is anti-Semitic.
Wave and tide of populism. Populism means also, is the nickname, a gentle name for fascism, therefore for anti-Semitism. And this wave is wiping off all our countries. The West, Europe, America, of course, Russia, which is the fatherland of this populism, the place where they puppetize, marionetize this populism. So we have that everywhere. And of course, anti-Semitism is the climax of this populist trend. And it's absolutely normal that we have it, but it would be absolutely normal to resist, to face and to contain it, and we don't do enough it.
And that's...
I have to clarify something for people.
Yeah.
The fascist movement, which was an Italian quasi-intellectual movement, and Benito Mussolini was one of the main players in the development of it in the late 20s, actually mid-20s. It had absolutely zero people. It was a totalitarian style system that was very closely hooked to corporatism, where corporations were part of the government. But it had absolutely zero anti-Semitism built within it. In fact, the opposite may actually be true. It wasn't until Hitler came along and stole the popularity of the whole system, and he put in his anti-Jewish prejudices or bigotries into the system and made it anti-Jewish. It never traditionally. Fascism does not equal anti-Semitism by definition. National Socialism, which is the Nazi Party, yes, that's different, but he didn't say that.
Unfortunately, when you do not defend the meaning of words such as gay, meaning happy, gleeful, and you allow that to be changed, you can't stop other words being changed to have a meaning. And it's happening right here before our very eyes by intellectual elites who are just telling us these words mean something different now, and you're meant to believe it.
Yeah, it's completely unacceptable.
In Scandinavia, you're not free from this. We have yellow vests also cropping up in Canada. Here is author/podcaster Nora Loretto telling us exactly what this is about.
This is a movement that is using the cover of jobs and pipelines and oil exploitation to earn their credibility into the mainstream press, while then also talking about the UN being some international conspiracy theory to, I'm not exactly sure what, override Canada with, I don't even want to continue on that line because it's just so racist and so disgusting.
She's taking it to the same place.
The United Nations is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
She knows what verbs and nouns. She gets these mixed up. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It really is. All right, well, there you go. It's just what it is.
This shows. I started off joyous at the beginning of the show, and now I'm getting more and more depressed.
Let me see. 2011. Is this that same douchebag?
Quote here for a moment. You say, "I am troubled by a system of justice, modestly termed accusatory, meaning that anyone can come along and that is what the complainant, the victim, alleged
have been shot of." Yeah, 2011 is the last time we heard from him. 8 years ago. And this guy's back. This frog.
Probably got a book coming up.
That's what he just said. He said this is exactly what his book is about. His book is about populism turning into anti-Semitism. And he's got the Anti-Defamation League to back everybody up. And there is a
The Anti-Defamation League should be ashamed of itself by not mentioning Farrakhan if they're gonna go there.
Well, not in any clips I saw. So
no, because they didn't.
No,
because it would kind of impinge on the Democrat Party. This has become a political organization, partisan toward the Democrats. It's unacceptable. So I have a clip. Let's change gears a little bit, unless you want to stop and take a pause, because we're going to have to take a couple of extra breaks.
Well, yeah. So maybe I should talk about the meetup first before we go into a regular segment. Talk about who we saw and who had what to say and who had some nice notes, etc.
Yeah, you got a lot more notes than the general meetups get, it seems to me, because I looked at your little list of things to talk about. Mm-hmm. And you had a lot of notes.
Well, we don't have to read every single one of them, obviously.
No, but you want to read the good ones.
Yeah, I do. I got them right here.
Let's start our segment. Let's start the segment, and then you'll do the meetup reads, because you have a separate group.
All right. Well, let's do it.
And we'll do the regular stuff, and then we can go back to the.
Well, let me start by thanking you for your courage and say, in the morning to you, the man who put the C in cold-ass Iowa, John C. Dvorak.
And in the morning to you, and all the dames and knights out there.
And feet in the air, subs in the water, boots on the ground.
I did that at the beginning of the show.
Well, in the morning to you, sir. In the morning to all of the human resources in our troll room, noagendastream.com. Good to have you all there. Thanks. I love you guys showing up, helping us out, particularly when we're on location and things are need a little more help from the trolls. And I'd also like to say in the morning to Sir Lowenbrow, who, it's been a long time since he had some artwork. He did the art for episode 1114. Title of that was Fudged. And this was the Orange Man Bad Poison Control patch. It was
a great patch to have.
But I think we got this from Evergreens.
Yeah, it's an older one. He probably doesn't even listen to the show anymore.
Well, I don't know about that.
No, I'm guessing.
Yeah, he probably does. Probably does. But I don't know. Why couldn't we find any art that was recently submitted? Do you recall?
Yeah, because it wasn't up to our normal high standards.
Oh, okay, that's it.
Or it was straddling. A lot of it was predictive. A lot of it wasn't. It wasn't funny.
Right, predictive. Yeah, a lot of people do this. They'll think they know what topics we're going to talk about and make art beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't work very well usually.
It generally never works.
No. Okay, so we had our big meetup here in Des Moines, Iowa.
Well, before you go into the meetup, how was the wedding?
Well, the meetup was first. The wedding was yesterday. And the wedding was fantastic. It was at the Botanical Gardens, which is a really great venue. No, it's inside. They're inside in a tropical dome.
Huh.
Yeah, it was really nice. And Keeper and I danced the night away, and groovy. Got in way too late, and I got up nice and early to do the show. But the meetup was on Friday. As we traveled we got up really early Friday morning. We were on a plane at 10 to 6 to St. Louis. You cannot get directly to Des Moines from pretty much anywhere. And so we had a 3-hour layover in St. Louis. It's pretty much the whole trip should have taken 3 hours, not even from Austin to Des Moines. So we got in and then got turned around, everything set up, and went straight off to the hall. Which again, thanks to the owner for letting us brandish weapons and make a right old ruckus. said there was about 70 people. Now, I think this was coordinated by Joshua Thompson. I think he was the original coordinator who worked with Mimi.
Yeah.
And so I want to thank him right up front. He gave $33, which was $30 in paper, and 3 Susan B. Anthony silver dollars.
Are they the silver ones or the copper ones?
Do they look like, he said they were silver. They look silver. I don't know. How would I know if they're copper?
They're made out of nickel then.
It's not silver?
No.
I like them anyway. They're really nice.
Put them in a little thing. Go to the coin and stamp store and get these little containers.
Yeah,
these things. You
pneumaticis.
can put the coin in there and you fold it up and you got a coin in a little square thing.
Exactly. Thanks to an anonymous donor, $40, no note, no name. Almost everybody did a good job with envelopes and with notes and putting their name on it. Although the $49, that it was a check, and I don't want to mention their names because that's kind of an anonymous. That's one of our signs that is meant to be an anonymous donation.
It's because it is.
Yeah, well, there you go. So
otherwise, you would have donated 50.
Yes, $50 from John and Aaron Shriver. They had no note. Jake Nichols, $60, and he had a very nice note. And he also gave me a book, which may have to enter the No Agenda reading list. Foundations, Their Power and Influence by Renee Wormser. Now, we've talked about the foundations and how they influence education by literally giving money and saying only if you use it for social justice warrior stuff. And his donation is dedicated to my late grandfather, Lloyd D. Johnson, an accomplished engineer who was part of an engineering team that designed and built the gyroscopic navigational control module for the moon lander in the 60s. And, legend has it, a pair of his shoes were sent in the time capsule to the moon during one of the trial runs of the landing. How about that?
Well, there you go.
I'm petitioning JCD to start an Instagram page to archive his archives. The people demand access. He actually says hoarding, and it's crossed out archives. The people demand access. Barry Richardson, $66. He says, in the morning, love the show. Josiah Thomas, $75. No notes. Josh Moser, he needed a de-douching, so let me give him the de-douching. This is his first ever.
You've been de-douched.
Let me see if I can find his note really quickly. I don't think I can find it. You do this so much better than I do with these notes. All right. Then we had... Yeah, I know, right? Then we had our knighting on the spot, Steve Drury. And let me see.
Oh, by the way, can I mention something?
Yes.
I'm never going to do that. I'm just telling everybody in advance.
Oh, okay, that you won't knight him. Actually, this is Steve Drury, who becomes a knight today. He's completed his knighthood with $80. He becomes circumspect. Then we have
circumspect the second.
Must be.
Yeah.
$95 from, we're not sure. The note said Doob. D-O-O-B, so I'm not sure who that was. Scott of the Tall Corn, he gave $100, and he gave us some very nice Iowa tags. I have a name tag, and there's some stuff in here for you, all Iowa related, and lots of nice little goodies. And he says that he has a hoodie for the Foamer in Chief when you come to Iowa, so he's putting the screws to you there. Todd McGreevy, $100. He says, please, if you can, do more topics about Agenda 21, which I think we kind of call Agenda 2030, or in these days we just call the Green New Deal. Even though he feels that we don't talk about Agenda 21 anymore, and people should definitely
we used to talk about a lot.
Yeah, now it's kind of morphed into some stuff we see right in front of us. I think Green New Deal is a fantastic example of Agenda 21. And he asked if we plug marigoldresources.com for producers who need help in buying or selling a business. Sir Dirt Farmer of Illinois, $100. No jingles. He'd want to just karma, so we can do that for him.
You've got karma.
Joshua Kratke, $100, and he had these beautiful laser-cut name tags. I have one for you. It's wood, but it's cut with a laser, and it says John C. Dvorak, podcaster. I think it'd be nice. It's kind of.
Does it have a pin on it?
It has a magnetic connector. Oh. You'll need it because it's kind of heavy.
Better.
It may drag your T-shirt down a bit. It's beautiful. It'll keep you afloat, though, if you fall in the water. A.J. Bolin, $100 from him, and he had actually one of the nicest cards, a handmade card. Very pretty. Dear Adam and John, I'm so very grateful for everything you two do to bring sanity to a seemingly insane world. This donation is the least I can do to thank you both. All I ask for in return is a simple karma and the hope that the two of you will carry on for as long as you can. And he came in from Minnesota, which is quite a drive. We appreciate that.
You've got karma.
Sir Knight of the East Side, $100. And then we had the father-son duo, Mark and Michael Halby. And they had a very interesting idea. They had a whole stack of 3D printer tags. You may have seen one of the pictures on Twitter. Respect, resist we much, in the morning. And they had this a big bowl, and they said, grab any tag you want, value for value, throw whatever money you want into the bucket, and 33% of all online orders goes to the show. So they have more of them at noagendatags.com. So they hauled in $190 on the evening, and so that was donated to the show. Yeah, very nice. Sir John and Dame Amy of House Punu. Yeah, Sir John and Dame Amy of House Punu, $200. And Dame Amy was very adamant that this is be applied to her donations and not to Sir John. Let's see, I don't think we had any other notes there. Dave Albrecht, $200. And he will be knighted today. And he wants spreadsheets and ghost guns on the at the round table, and he will become Sir Dude named Dave, Doer of Deeds of the Great Plains. And let's see, he wanted a mac and cheese, a money shot, and a rubbleizer, which I happen to have ready for everybody right here.
You slaves can get used to mac and cheese. Cheap macaroni and cheap cheddar melted together.
Mac and cheese.
India, Tango, Mike, stand by. 33. Rubbleizer out.
You've got karma.
Oh, what I couldn't find was the, hey, where did that go? Where'd the money shot go? Darn it. All right. I'll owe him the money shot.
That's a sure enough money shot. Woo, Jesus. Woo, Lord. Look at that. That's a money shot. Kellyanne Conway and a money shot.
So we'll see you at the round table later, Sir Dave. Sir Benjamin T. Ritgers. He's a guy who's been around. He gave us a couple of cool challenge coins to divvy up and $200.01. And see, I think he had a quick note. Let me see. Where is he? Yes, here he is. To John Adam, thank you for the show. It keeps me sane, keeps my amygdala strong and small, hopefully. I hope the place in Des Moines I chose pleased everyone. Oh, I guess Sir Benjamin took care of this. There were multiple people who were working on this one. Can I please get a Reverend Al respect? Enclosed is a few challenge coins of groups that I'm in and a bottle of Iowa wine, which I think is Craps. Have you ever heard of this particular
Craps? Craps wine?
Crapps?
No, never heard of it. But you can grow wine in lots of parts of the country if you use the right grape.
Okay, and we will definitely give you a karma here.
RESPICT.
You've got karma.
Okay, then we have Sir Whitney, Knight of the
Court. Douchebag call out you didn't do.
That's coming up right here. Sir Whitney, Knight of the Corn Belt, Conspiracies, and Smoking Hot Wife Amy. First of Adam, thanks for coming to the Midwest. A pleasure to meet you in Des Moines. Hope you and Tina enjoyed the awful winter weather. Yes, we did. This donation amount is to celebrate the 4th birthday of our first human resource, Warner. That'll be February 27th. We were both avid listeners, began listening very shortly after his birth. The poor kid has been listening to you guys his whole life. His jingle requests are mac and cheese, bugs, 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 goat scream, orange man bad, and butt slammed. He often refers to butt slamming people, and we have to gently remind him he shouldn't say that around other people. No kidding. Douchebag
How
call.
old is he?
He's going to be 1.
What?
I know. Well, he says he can do it.
Very precocious at 1.
I kind of like it. Douchebag call-outs to my brother Calvin, douchebag, and my friend and drummer Nate, douchebag, and partials. I don't think we do partial douchebaggings. Partials to my dad and Dan because I make them listen to you guys at work. Okay, well, 2 partials is a full one together. Thank you very much, sir.
I love bugs. Bugs.
Tastes like poop.
Orange man bad.
Whoa, you got butt slam.
You've got karma.
Okay, Dave and Diane Holst, which I have somewhere. Okay. I don't know. I guess I misplaced that one. All right. Send it in again to me, Dave and Diane, but thank you very much for your $333.33 and a karma to you as requested.
You've got karma.
And then we get Paul Richardson, who was knighted at the meetup. He was knighted Circuitous Root. How do I pronounce this? Cuitous. Circuitous. Thank you. Circuitous. What does circuitous mean?
If I'm going to tell you a story about how I got from point A to point B, but instead I take a circuitous route of telling the story, it becomes a Shaggy Dog story, and I finally tell you how I got there.
Okay. Got it. Makes total sense. And
it makes no sense.
Yeah, it does. For him, it does. So he's circuitous route of the scooter clubs, and we'll be knighting him on the show as well later on. $375. Thank you. The anonymous procrastinator sent us a nice tender thoughts card. He just wanted a de-douching.
You've been de-douched.
Thank you for your courage and the amazing product. Truly is the best podcast in the universe. I just got his massive de-douching as requested. I have been a long-time listener, and this will be my first donation. I already feel better by stepping across the divide and joining of the Value for Value Fellowship. Your show never ceases to amaze me. The combination of stellar sound quality, insightful discussion, and introduction and updates of world events being ignored by the M5M make your show personally irreplaceable. I really appreciate the movie and book recommendations. Keep them coming, although I do kind of miss the second half of show stories. Amen fist bump. Kind regards, the anonymous procrastinator. P.S. I hope to drop a $500 in the hands of JCD at a future meetup. And he wants some small business jobs karma and just send your cash. What else did he want here? Foamer and a goat scream. So we'll add the goat scream to your karma. And that was $500 from the anonymous procrastinator. Thank you very much, sir, for your courage.
Just send your cash. We just need cash. We can't take that to the bank. Oh my God! Woo! Listen to that horn!
Karma.
And finally on our list, Brian Anonymous, $500, and he needs a douchebag call out to the anonymous procrastinator for not donating. Douchebag. So I should have done those.
Now you got to de-douche him.
Yes, exactly right.
You've been de-douched.
That's fantastic. And he wants, he does want a karma, but he doesn't want any jingles. All he wants to hear is John's chair squeak.
Well, let me see if I can get in the right position.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of good.
It's not real squeaky today.
Karma.
It's not very squeaky at all. One note here, dear John and Adam, please use my name, Susan Bosenberg. Thank you for the sanity and insight to M5M tricks. Please also request health karma for my spouse. He's being worked up for a neuro problem, which might be ALS. Ugh. He does not listen, but was agreeable to the 5-hour drive on one condition, that he got a picture with Adam. And I'm pretty sure that happened. And she wanted to have Clippity Clop, which is good. We haven't heard Clippity Clop in a while. And also a rubbleizer, which doesn't happen very often. And a 2 to the head.
India, Tango, Mike, stand by. 33, 33, 33. Rubbleizer out.
The message is clear.
Just clippity clop.
You've got karma.
And that should just about do it. One final thank you to the producer whose name I did not get. He didn't write it down anywhere. He gave me. He works for the Des Moines International Airport Crash and Fire Rescue. So when you crash your plane, he goes and gets you. He actually said, "Hey, have you ever declared an emergency?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, when you do, I'm the guy that comes out looking for you." And so he gave me one of those cool patches for my flight jacket. So,
cool.
Thank you very much. And thanks, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming. I might have missed one or two people. Let us know. Email us. We'll definitely try and fix that. And I want to thank Tina the Keeper for being a fantastic help. I don't think if it was just me by myself, it would have been hard to just maneuver around. And, she was making sure I talked to everybody, and she was helping out with all the pictures, and it was really a great event. And I want to thank everyone for coming out, especially those who came from so far away.
And wait, there's more.
Uh-oh.
There's a meetup coming up I put this in a note. There's a meetup coming up in Austin, I believe.
This Saturday.
Friday.
Saturday.
Uh-huh. And that meetup in Des Moines was quite successful, but it's been the Texans who have been moaning and groaning and moaning and groaning and moaning and groaning about not having a meetup. They have to top this.
They have to. Well, so we need more than 70 people to show up. And we have a special guest star appearing at the Austin, Texas meetup.
Yeah?
Yeah, besides Tina the Keeper, of course. Eric the Shill will be joining us.
Eric the Shill will keep things in line.
I think he's coming to check on me to make sure we're doing everything the way we're supposed to. So looking forward to that. Eric the Shill will be at the meetup. That'll be at the Austin Beer Works on the 2nd of March. That's this Saturday. It starts at 3:33 p.m. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. Austin Beer Works. Go to noagendameetups.com to find out more. And now let us thank our executive producers and associate executive producers for episode 1115.
Yes, starting with Sirtaki. And Den Dolder, Holland. Is that right?
Yeah, Den Dolder. Correct. Sirtaki.
Yeah, Taco Sirtaki. He is. He gave $1,000.
Whoa!
Which means he could be bumped up, but he doesn't say anything. After my second call out, thanks Robin, thanks Sandra, in last week's show, I finally realized that I should do now what I should have done years ago. The way you have been deconstructing media in general, and more specifically predicting globalistic themes like the war on men, way before they actually hit. The Netherlands is unmatched and absolutely priceless. So forgive me, Podfather, for I have sinned. Please de-douche me and accept this nightly donation. The Aretha Franklin, L. Sharpton respect jingle would be my way to honor the No Agenda show. Thanks for all the entertainment, knowledge, and insights.
All right. And, of course, you might want to check out Sir Roderick with his TPO podcast if you're looking for something comparable to the No Agenda show in the lowlands.
You've been de-douched.
RESPICT.
You've got karma.
Gretchen Wittig, $333.33. It's a crawfish boil donation. How about a hint of that sweet, sweet jobs karma for everybody in the No Agenda Nation who's looking for a change? I just landed a stellar new gig, and I'm pretty sure that all the jobs floating around gave me the edge I needed. Thanks, No Agenda. I'm paying it forward.
Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
David Alston in Yukon, Oklahoma, 333. Finally finishing my knighthood after years of being a small donation douchebag. Since your early episodes, you're not a douchebag if you're giving anything. I made my final payment on our twins' college tuition and now can afford to pay you guys. Please de-douche me and give me a karma, and I want a special toot to the head since all the knights are probably tracked by the CIA. Also, I'm definitely putting this shit on my LinkedIn. And we'll leave the rest out.
You've been de-douched.
So thanks for the thought.
You've got karma.
Oh, thank you very much.
Robert Mendez, $290. It's okay to use my name? Okay, we did. And thank you, gentlemen, for being who you are. It took me a little while, but at the end of the day, I've enjoyed every episode since 2008. We actually haven't gotten to show 2008 yet. I don't know what he's talking about. I get it. The show has given me such great insight about the world and continues to keep me balanced through these interesting times. The donation should get me to knighthood, and let me know if you need anything to confirm that. I get the opportunity to join the other knights and dames at the round table on Sunday, February 24th. I would very much like to attend. Sir, him. I'm trying to dial down my meat intake so some Malta.com leche would do it for me. I'll keep this note short and ask everyone out there listening to make sure you contribute to the show through one of the subscription models. Nothing beats value for value, so do it now. It's a fact that No Agenda is the best podcast in the universe. If time permits, I'd like some simple No Agenda jingles. Jobs karma for everyone who needs it, of course. Karma for everyone in the show, which would be the same jingle. A de-douching, which he does need. Just send us your cash. And if it exists, nap for humanity. And then if you can do the end of the show at the end of the day full.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
And I'll give you a little taste of it at the end of the day right now.
You've been de-douched.
Just send your cash. We just need cash. We can't take that to the bank.
Nap for humanity.
But at the end of the day, they're backing him. They're backing. Come on.
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day, John, if someone wants to get anyone, they can get him.
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day.
You've got karma.
Full version at the end of the show, lined up.
Sir Cal of Lavender Blossoms, who's coming in with $234.56. Please wish a happy birthday to my 24-year-old milfy wife, Janet.
All right.
She's turning 44. Also, semper fidelis to all my jarhead brothers out there, Sir Cal of Lavender Blossoms. What's his website again?
It's
get that.
Yeah, lavenderblossoms.org. I was just talking last night to somebody at the wedding. I said, if you have arthritis or pain in your hands or something, try this stuff out. Lavenderblossoms.org. Thanks, Cal.
Yeah.
And your milfy wife.
Semper Fi.
Yes.
Sir Dennis Goad in Bettendorf, Iowa, 23456. Great meetup in Des Moines. Thanks, Sir Ben Ritgers, for organizing.
There you go.
Thanks, Sir Patrick of Tennessee, for all the food. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
And check the next name who was there.
Thanks, Sir Ramsey Kane, for the great swag.
Yeah.
Well, good for him.
Everyone was there, man. It was great.
Thanks, Adam and the Keeper, for taking time out of your weekend. No jingles, no karma. Sir Dennis Goad.
Thank you, Sir Dennis.
All right, and that concludes our well-wishers, our executive producers, associate executive producers, and the meetup members that showed up, the complete list. And I want to thank them all for supporting this show, No Agenda, show number 1115.
Yeah, we had a great time, and I look forward to more meetups. As John said, we have the big Austin, Texas meetup coming this Saturday. But this one was particularly special because so many people came from reasonably large distances just to be here. And there was a lot of excitement, and it was just a great crowd. And besides us meeting everybody, I think everyone else enjoyed meeting each other. So hopefully we'll do another one in Iowa in the future.
Actually, no agenda people that go to these meetups and start to meet each other, even though you don't meet everybody, you meet a lot of them, they get along famously, and sometimes you end up with a situation like Local 1 up in Michigan. They have meetups like every month.
Yeah, and then they create their own little groups and just hang out.
Social operation.
So and there's plenty of producers here in Iowa itself, and many of them were there. So I think that they could certainly have their own local Iowa 1. But again, it was just really nice to have everybody flow in. And Local 2. I'm sorry. We know who owns Local 1. It'll be Local 2, of course.
Yeah, that's a union state. They're not going to put up with this sort of thing.
We will be back on Thursday for another episode of the best podcast in the universe. You are more than welcome to support the work. Please consider doing that at
Dvorak.org/NA.
And you are now well up to speed on a lot of what's going on. You can take that and propagate.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
Whoa, you got butt slam! Shut up, Slade.
All right. Oh, I have an update.
Okay.
We were talking about the douchebag reporting from Tucker Carlson regarding scromiting, the screaming and vomiting combo, which is supposedly takes place when you smoke too much weed.
Yeah.
And this has an actual name, cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, CHS. And I called bullshit on it the first time. I called bullshit on it the second time that it came up, particularly because I don't know what Tucker Carlson's problem is with weed, but he has such a disdain for it. But he was very specific. Him and his staff doctor, this came from smoking too much weed. That's the way you recall it as well, John?
That is the way I recall it. Now, I want to interject here that there have been some instances in certain states, although I think this may be exaggerated too, where people have too many edibles.
No,
because it takes 2 hours before they take effect, and after an hour nothing happens, so they take more, and then still nothing happens, so they take more, and the next thing you know,
I had three of our producers email me, and they all had very similar notes. You're mocking this. It's true. It is true. I had it. I was screaming and puking. I lost 35 pounds. It was the most horrible experience ever. I'm like, what? So I've never heard of this. And I am a pretty much daily smoker of the flower, the
How
holy
do you
herb.
lose 35 pounds?
Well, this went on for weeks.
Oh, weeks.
Okay. I figured out what's going on. This is not from people smoking weed. This is from people who dab. And now I understand the problem. And if you don't know what dabbing is an extraction, it's a smoking wax, essentially THC wax, which is hash oil. They call it wax, but it's hash oil, which is extracted using butane. So it's butane hash oil extracts. People are also using propane now to extract it. And I've had some of this. I've smoked some wax. And I was like, this is not weed. This is like some chemical. I mean, it's incredibly strong and it's not pleasurable. But I think that there's this contingent of people who really love this chemically treated hemp oil.
Can I stop?
Please.
Did all three producers send you pretty much the same note? And did all three producers imbibe through this method?
Yes. And
so none of them were smoking. I mean, to me, smoking dope, smoking weed, smoking the reefer, any of these things entails making a small cigarette and then smoking it like as if it was something cigarette-like.
Yes, and
that to me is smoking.
In this
case,
is
not. This is like the difference between cocaine and crack.
Yeah, in a way, that's similar. Now, this is typically, and if you want to know where a lot of these so-called vape pen explosions come from, a lot of the dabbers, use very high-powered battery vape systems known as mods. which can be very dangerous if they don't have protection for overload. And they put a little bit of the wax there on the coil, and then then it heats it up because of the essentially the short circuit you're creating with a lithium ion battery, and then that is inhaled. But that's not the same as marijuana. So regardless of whether it's coming from some cannabinoid product, it is not from smoking weed. And so, which makes Tucker Carlson's report even stupider, especially because he had a doctor there. It is true that a hot shower helps, and there's and people do have severe reaction to it, which.
Well, this sort of practice should be discouraged by Tucker Carlson.
Exactly.
Not used as evidence against the whole everything.
Exactly.
I consider that to be dishonest reporting.
There is one other thing that and one of our producers sent this in. He says what's happening now is in California, growers, there's all kinds of rules and regulations. So if they have moldy marijuana or stuff that may be caterpillars, they have a caterpillar issue, and they're eating up all of the
profits.
Eating up the crops. So then these growers, when they can't sell them into the official market, they will basically hand them off to the extractors, the BHO, butane hash oil extractors, which then ends up in the vape cartridges, which are legal to buy. And and then you've got some contaminated shit that you're inhaling again through a vaporizer. People, just get the flower. Just that's the way it was intended. You don't need anything extra, just the flower. And you're right, roll it up, and that's the way to go. And all this other stuff is, I think you're playing with your life, and I cannot recommend it.
End of lecture.
Yes, end of lecture, and end of looking out for the reefer madness of Fox News and Tucker Carlson. It's wrong.
Well, I have my theory on that already.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I told it before. This is all because of the O'Reilly market, which is what because Carlson took over the O'Reilly spot, and everybody who listens at that moment expects anti-marijuana propaganda.
You're right. Well, screw him.
Hey, so there's an Israeli trip to the moon coming finally.
They got to go check on the moon bases, see how they're doing.
But apparently they can't get there. They have to go whipping around the Earth for a month and then get slingshotted out to the moon because we don't make a big rocket anymore. The big Saturn V rocket that was used to go to the moon. And if you ever look at a rocket comparison chart, you see rocket Titan II. You see all these rockets, and there's a Saturn V monstrosity, which is the biggest thing ever built. And they can't build them anymore because it costs too much.
In the 70s made the trip to the moon in 3 days, thanks to giant Saturn V rockets. Without that kind of boost, the Israeli craft has to orbit Earth in growing circles until lunar gravity finally pulls it in April.
I can't wait for rockets to not be making it, to be crashing, blowing up, stuff to go wrong. It's not going to happen. I am now more convinced than ever when I read through in between the lines of all these, we're going back to the moon after, 50 years? Woohoo! Let's see you do it. Please land with one of those lunar modules. Can't wait. I'm skeptical, as you can tell.
Yeah, it's nothing new. How about here's a clip. I put these clips on. I pre-produce them now the day before, so sometimes I forget what they're about. So I'm not sure what the Deborah Eisenstadt on sexism weirdo clip is.
Well, let's see what it is.
To be honest, I was battling a lot of sexism while I made this.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
Who is Deborah Eisenstadt?
Stop that clip.
All right.
That clip, I'm saving that clip to use in conjunction with the Amelia Clark clip.
Okay.
At a moment in time where we're talking about this topic, because now I know what it is. I'm sorry that I should have not forgotten.
Okay, you want to redeem yourself with something else?
Yes, I got Jill Abramson.
I knew you would have time for this. I thank you so much, because this was a C-SPAN thing, and I certainly wasn't able to do it.
Well, I got 1, 2, 3. They're short. Except one. No, 2 of them are long, actually, 2 minutes. But 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 2 fabulous ISOs.
Wow.
And it's the ISOs you're going to probably like the most.
Okay.
But she talks a lot about, I didn't care too much about her going on and on about what was and what wasn't plagiarism, but she did lose the plot. We talked about, we had the clip from the Canadian Land podcast where they talk about how Jill said that she sent the thing to Vice and then never got anything. But that's not true. That whole clip from Canada Land was very dubious. Unfortunately, when she starts talking about it in this particular clip where she loses the plot, she loses her train of thought. And the woman who's interviewing her, which is the old NPR CEO, who's the one who said
the one from advertising. Oh, what was her name again? No, it doesn't matter. It
doesn't really matter. But she sounds like, the same. I'll think of her name as we go. But watch how she loses the plot, and then the interviewer, which is this ex-NPR woman, if you're losing your train of thought and you're the interviewer,
that's a problem. That's a problem.
It's pretty much the interviewer's purview to bring you back into line.
Yeah.
With some, memorable anything. You try to trigger the thought. No, never happens. We don't even get the end of the story.
At Vice, because I saw my portrait overall of them as being, balanced. And
well, you do document a lot of their missteps and, some of the internal issues around
you said we're going to go back to that issue. But that is why I gave, in manuscript version, the 3 chapters of Vice to the then spokesman of Vice to rake over.
Did they come back to you with any changes?
Oh, her fry is on fire.
They did, and I am so certain that they didn't give me anything in writing, whereas the other place I gave manuscript pages was the Times, which came back pretty comprehensively and in writing. So it's possible, because I'm better on print than through my ears, although I do.
So each news organization saw the chapters.
An editor at each one, I asked. But anyway, what point were we on? That we were talking about chart beat and analytics.
That BuzzFeed has been able to embrace and harness this to, for a long time. I mean,
that was all.
Shifting.
Vivian Schiller is her name.
Yeah, Vivian Schiller. She couldn't get her back on track. In fact, she even pushed her off the track by going on about stuff that wasn't even discussed.
Damn. Do you want to hear?
Anyway, so she talks about. It was some good stuff here. Here's what this starts off with a discussion of how luxury watches started being covered on the New York Times for no good reason. And then she begins to talk about how analytics has affected coverage and why Trump gets so much negative publicity. I didn't know any of this. Well, it's because I haven't been in a newsroom probably for well over a decade. But I had no idea that, for example, apparently at the Washington Post, they have a board. It's like the Max Headroom movie where the ratings of we got so many clicks on story number 5. Let's do another story like that.
Oh, really? Oh,
listen
goodness.
to this. This is the luxury watches clip.
Luxury watches.
Desperately needed journalistic.
Bill Keller and my collective view was like, there is nothing really newsworthy about watches.
But that wasn't the point, of course.
That does run in the Times now. And it still, rankles me. Yeah. I was probably not the executive editor matched perfectly with my time.
We also challenge the access, the newsroom's access to analytics on how stories are performing. You talk about an episode where it was introduced at the Washington Post, and
now they have these big boards. Right. You see by the second what stories are being done, and that may, dare I say, help explain why sometimes when I'm on the Post app, I have to scroll maybe twice, sometimes 3 times, because they mix opinion with news on one of their apps. It's all Trump, because and maybe Trump is he's obviously the master newsmaker, and that's exactly what he wants. But all of those stories are getting like big audiences and lots of clicks. Yeah. And, you know, there is an implied incentive to have so many. And at the Times, you know, I have a friend who still works there who admitted to me that when they aren't writing on Trump and something else, like on Chartbeat, or now the Times journalists can easily have access to analytics.
Okay, so breaking this down, what she's saying is, and it's hard for people who are new to Jill Abrams to understand what she's talking about. So the journalists write stories. There's an analytics board in the newsroom that shows whose story is getting the most reads, clicks, whatever. And then that's the incentive for them to go and do more of that, which for their audience, of course, is Trump. Yeah. Clicks. Yeah, Chris click. We don't even know if it's reads, just clicks.
Well, this is like...
That's going to kill them, man. That's going to kill all news.
I agree, because this is something that I started writing on the web early, and I've always wanted to see what the analytics were, because I kind of wrote clickbait style headlines, and still do, and I can see where you would start to think that, whoa, this one worked, this one didn't, and they kind of encourage that in magazines because they want to keep everyone.
But wait, you're saying something important here. It's not the article; it's the headline.
Well, it was always the headline.
Well, I mean, but the clicks, their analytics are on the clicks, and the clicks are going to be on the headlines, not on the story. And we don't know if someone necessarily read the story, do we? In their newsroom analytics big board?
Well, this thing called ChartStat or whatever it is, I don't know what these systems do anymore. But I would assume they probably emphasize headline writing, and that's why headline writing is so important.
It's got to be, yeah.
But it's always been that way, except you never got the feedback. And it wasn't so encouraged. Not everybody can write good headlines. That's why for most writers, the headlines aren't written by the writers. They tend to be written by the editors.
Right.
And even though some editors cannot write very good headlines either, some can write fabulous headlines, but very few. This is needle watching. This is like, again, Max Headroom, where if you remember that movie, especially the movie is much better than the TV show was. Rent that movie if you've never seen it. It's like real-time TV where they just, the ratings are in real time, so there's a meter going on constantly. You would talk about something else, and then the meter goes up. Talk about something else, it goes up higher, and then it starts dropping off. You're fired, just in real time.
And not to toot our own horn, but I think our analytics are the only ones that are really truthful and honest, and that's why we're transparent about them. If we don't get enough support to pay rent, then we're not doing it. Then we're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I would say
it's that simple.
So let's play her on that. They're talking about what model works for the news business, and there's a kind of a fundamental mistake made here by the interviewer. What's her name? Vivian Schiller. She jumps. I mean, I can see why she jumped to this conclusion, but what Jill said and what Vivian assumes and what Jill then confirms kind of misses the major point, which I'm going to point out.
$709 million in earnings per week. It's extraordinary. Do you think that is a model that can work for news organizations everywhere?
I wish I did.
Me too.
The problem is that only news companies that do journalism at the highest quality levels and, publish stories that you can't find anywhere else, the model will work. But
do you think it's only a matter of quality?
I do.
Think that's...
Wait a minute. What are they saying now?
They're talking about what model works for the news business, because the New York Times said $708 or some $700 million plus
in digital subscriptions.
And so Vivian's asking her, is it possible that everyone can make this kind of money? And she says no. So you can listen to the whole clip again. She said no, and she's because we do something the other papers can't do, which is they have a large staff of people, and they dig into things a little more, and they have bureaus all over the place. And smaller places can't do that. They're probably going to all die. But there's a mistake being made in here, so play the whole clip again.
Okay, hold on. Shoot, hold on a second. Oh, yes, model. Here we go.
$709 million in earnings for week. It's extraordinary. Do you think that is a model that can work for news organizations
I wish
everywhere?
I did.
Yeah.
I wish I did.
Me too.
The problem is that only news companies that do journalism at the highest quality levels and, publish stories that you can't find anywhere else, the model will work. But
do you think it's only a matter of quality?
I do.
Think that's...
Oh, I see. So it's only because they're so incredibly good.
No. What it was is what Jill answered was the reasons is because of high quality and things you can't find elsewhere.
Right, exclusive.
And then Vivian says, do you think it's only because of high quality? No, that's not what Abramson. That's not what she said. She said high quality and information that can't be found elsewhere.
Right.
Well, it's the information that it's information that can't be found elsewhere. That's the key to this. The quality is just secondary.
Yeah, the joke of it is all the information that the New York Times has that can't be found elsewhere comes from multiple people familiar with the situation and people who would not go on record.
We're talking about the finished product, not the bad sourcing.
Okay.
In fact, your point actually makes the high quality thing take a back seat, because high quality is not saying, this guy, according to sources, we think this guy, we think that, or having people make stuff up like that editorial.
Mm-hmm.
So that quality at the New York Times is not great. But what makes it all work is that they do have stories you can't find anyplace else.
Yeah, they're bullcrap, but
that's why the Wall Street Journal did the paywall and made it work, because the Wall Street Journal has a lot of reporters digging up stuff you can't find anyplace else. The quality, be damned. It's not about the quality.
It's just about the exclusive of the stories, which could also just be playing into your own little bias bubble, but that's neither here nor there.
I just think that Vivian blew for some reason, she had it in her mind that it had to be quality. So you can write the most high quality stuff. You want high quality stuff? Go buy a book.
Yeah.
That's your high quality right there. Okay, so let's go. This is the last one. Now, this is where I think she got fired. I mean, she bitched about not getting enough money. But I think this last one, the native ads summary on Jill is how this is the problem that the New York Times has.
Digital world that we're living in today, which brings some advantages. Much is getting lost, and at risk is that journalistic ethics has become compromised. Did I get that right?
Or more complicated, for sure.
More complicated than compromised.
There are certain things where I think there's been a compromise, but they aren't things that are directly tied to the news reports of these places themselves. It has more to do with something called native advertising or branded advertising. And
so talk about what that is in case people don't know.
is advertising that very closely mimics the publication or video that the advertising is appearing next to. It may be advertising like in the New York Times or the Washington Post that has a byline, and and the quality is very good. It's just and it is identified at the Times. They call them paid posts. I had wanted, when this was under discussion at the Times, and I didn't want to do any native advertising, but that was going to be a battle.
You're right. There it is.
I wanted it label, the little label to say ad or advertising.
And it was not labeled.
It's called paid posts.
Yeah.
And so what bothers me about that is, there has been no scandal about these ads so far. I worried there there might be, but
there is.
But it is something that could sow confusion in the minds of an audience or readers, and they're the people I care most about. That's true of the mistakes I've made. I mean, it's my readers who I really owe an I'm sorry to.
So that's why she got fired there.
So do you think these $700 million is just subscriptions, or does that include native advertising?
Oh, of course it includes lots of native. It's more than subscriptions, all advertising and native.
Yeah, but they make it sound like, because I read the news about this, they make it sound like, we've got digital subscribers, baby. This is where we're making bank. We've cracked the nut. We know what's going on. But that money is also coming from native ads.
You want to read an article in the New York Times, and you run out of get your 4 limit. You get free 4 a month, and then 4 free a month.
Right.
You go to a private browser. Just click on private browser on your browser, and then put the URL in there, and you'll be able to read it fine.
Well, there's also all kinds of. I think even Safari will do this, where you can say, "Oh, yeah, I just want an easy-to-read screen version," and it will actually bypass the paywall in many cases. It does that for WAPO.
Okay, so let's listen to the 2 ISOs I've got. The first one.
Well, before we go to the ISOs, let me remind everybody of Vivian Schiller, since we're talking about advertising and native advertising. When she was still the boss of NPR, here's what she said.
Okay, moving on to money. How are NPR's corporate underwriting revenues holding up in the recession? And what about foundation grants?
2 different stories. Underwriting is down. It's down for everybody. I mean, this is the area that is most down for us. Is in sponsorship, underwriting, advertising. Call it whatever you want.
Oh, we'll call it advertising, if you don't mind, Vivian, because that's what it is.
That's your PBS. So okay, we got two of them here. One is Jill Rakeover.
To rake over.
Okay, there's that one.
Wow, I remember that in the piece. It sounded just like it. All right. You have another ISO?
Yeah, this one's under Abramson. This is Abramson. Abramson, you just play this one, you'll crack up.
Sorry, my voice is getting a little froggy.
No kidding. I'm sorry. I like the other one better.
Well, the other one is probably funnier.
The rake over. Yeah, this is a dynamite for end of show ISO.
To rake over.
Good job, John. You did get up early this morning to do some work. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And, that whole segment would have been half as long if it wasn't for the vocal fry.
Yeah, actually, it would have been half as long.
Unbelievable. Hey, we had the big Samsung Galaxy S10 5G introduction the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to hear a little bit of what this 5G is going to bring us? How fantastic this is going to be? Are you excited? Are you pumped? Are you ready for 5G? 5G, huh? You ready?
I'm getting tinnitus already.
We've talked a lot today about the future. A future where our smartphones are more than just smartphones.
And by the way, this introduction of Samsung, it was more flashy than I've ever seen from Apple. They had somehow the whole stage, and it was huge. The whole stage, the sides of the stage, the floor, the back, everything was one giant screen, which I guess Samsung knows how to do.
Let's stop for a second. Apple has kind of frozen in time.
Yes.
And I won't even say it's the last of the Steve Jobs presentations, but if the presentations done in the 90s, late 80s and 90s, is pretty far as Apple ever went. And everything since then has been derivative. It's the same, the black turtleneck. You come walking out. You bring a couple of slobs out to talk about something or other.
Yeah,
it's just it's dated. It's very dated.
Yeah, well, this presentation is also dated in that way, particularly because it's the big fanfare. It's all of the flashy stuff. It's the screen on the stage. But then the guy who's presenting is just some numbnut VP. It's like he has no real stage presence. But it doesn't matter because it's 5G. It's going to change the world.
A future led by a generation that expects more from their technology.
They expect more from their technology.
A future where all our devices, including the ones we wear, are seamlessly connected.
Oh, yes.
But to make that future possible, we need one more essential element.
What could that be?
A next-generation mobile network. That network and the key to our connected future is 5G.
Woo! Woohoo!
Now, back in the day, first-generation networks basically let us make phone calls without the cords. Second-generation networks introduced mobile data, and that ushered in an era of texting. It changed the way we communicate. 3G made connecting to the internet on the go a reality. It made mobile email and web browsing the new norm. And over the last decade, 4G paved the way for a new app economy, the rise of social media, and streaming music and video.
Oh, I can't wait. What will 5G bring us? My goodness, it must be, it's going to be mind-blowing.
Each network evolution has been accompanied by a mobile revolution.
Ooh.
And 5G represents our biggest step forward yet. First off, it'll be faster than any network we've ever seen.
Oh, faster. John, it'll be faster. What can that possibly mean?
Roughly 20 times faster.
Oh, my God.
Than 4G. Second, it'll be capable of just a millisecond of latency, which is the amount of time between an action and a reaction.
Well, this sounds like I need to have it.
And that opens the door for some incredible new possibilities.
Oh, my God. What can we do with this?
Like remote surgery, cloud gaming, and autonomous driving.
Well, that's the future right there, everybody. I need one immediately. Cloud gaming, autonomous vehicles, and remote surgery. Maybe it should be in the other order. It's cloud gaming, autonomous vehicles, and then you'll need some remote surgery after all of that kills you.
And third, it can bring on as
stress.
Yes.
many as 1 million devices per square kilometer. That's 10 times more than what's possible today. Soon, network congestion will be a thing of the past.
Oh, 5G. A network congestion will... Well, I thought net neutrality solved that already. It'll be a thing of the past.
Kilometer. That's 10 times more than what's possible today. Soon, network congestion will be a thing of the past. 5G will change everything. It'll enable us to connect and communicate in entirely new ways.
He doesn't really say how, but they keep promising.
It'll empower creators and innovators to bring to life ideas we never thought possible.
Oh, John, just imagine what you and I could do if only we had more speed and less something?
Congestion. Take a pill.
You and I will be able to do things we never envisioned before with our show.
And it's true. It won't happen overnight.
Oh.
It'll be step by step.
Hold on a second.
I know.
Did anybody yell that? Is this gonna
No.
Why did he say yes? It's true.
Who's
he responding to?
Very good catch. He's
some imaginary person.
No, he's responding to those douchebags on No Agenda who are playing his clip. It's interactive. This is what you can do with 5G. You can respond to clips in real time.
Everything. It'll enable us to connect and communicate in entirely new ways. It'll empower creators and innovators to bring to life ideas we never thought possible. And it's true, it won't happen overnight. It'll be step by step. And the whole tech industry...
Inch by inch, slowly I turn.
...has been laying the groundwork for 5G for decades.
Yeah, sure.
And Samsung, we've helped lead the way.
All right. So
this is talking about decades. So decades, meaning more than one. So 2 decades. 20 years ago, they were doing 5G.
Well, this is a product launch, so he's totally full of crap. But 5G is the hip term that everyone's talking about. So hip, in fact, that CBS was able to grab the founder of Huawei. Yes, we continue with the guy whose name we can't pronounce, with more incredibly innovating information about 5G and the 5G networks. And in this CBS This Morning piece, they went all out.
5G is the latest high-speed mobile innovation, promising to multiply wireless internet speeds and increase coverage.
Now we are rolling out 5G, and soon we'll welcome 6G.
I got a lot of grief from people for us laughing about Trump saying 5G, 6G. And, listen... yes, there will be 6G and there will be 7G, But this is bullshit. 5G isn't really even a thing yet. We haven't really agreed in the entire industry as to what that exactly is going to be. So it's easy to say 6G. But it doesn't mean anything.
5G, and soon we'll welcome 6G. And in the future, I said there will be new equipment that is suitable for the United States.
But U.S. intelligence agencies are concerned about Huawei's 5G growth. Former CIA Acting Director Michael Morell.
Now, I want you to listen very closely to what Mike Morell says. So he's trying to tell us that the danger of a 5G network rolled out on Huawei machinery would be very dangerous to our national security. But what he says is a little more egregious.
About Huawei's 5G growth. Former CIA Acting Director Michael Morell.
So 5G is going to allow a much larger number of devices to be connected to the internet. When you connect more devices, you create more platforms from which an intelligence service can spy from.
The Trump administration.
So he doesn't say the Chinese. No, he's talking about himself or his former agency. He's admitting it right there. 5G, we can spy easier on you.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he's saying.
Connect more devices, you create more platforms from which an intelligence service can spy from.
The Trump administration has warned its allies that it may reconsider its military relationships with countries that use Huawei.
I hadn't heard this, actually.
Yeah.
So, like, he's tying 5G Huawei machines to NATO or something? Like, if you use Huawei, then we won't protect you?
Yeah, something like that.
Nice.
We cannot ensure the defense of the West if our allies grow dependent on the East.
Oh.
Do you view that as a threat?
我要感谢他们两个 First of all, I would like to thank them because they are great figures. 5G was not known by common people, but now these great figures are all talking about 5G, and we're becoming more influential and getting more contracts.
I sense a little bit of sarcasm there.
Oh, please tell them. I'm actually thanking them for promoting us. They've been regarding 5G as the technology at the same level of some other military equipment. 5G is not an atomic bomb.
Despite warnings from the Trump administration, some of our European allies, including Germany and the UK, are reportedly considering allowing Huawei to build their high-speed infrastructure. For Ren, despite all the criticism from the administration, he knows his company's future in America is in the president's hands.
You speak very highly of President Trump, yet he is likely to issue an executive order banning your company from doing any business in the United States. How do you square the two?
Well, we have never had many sales in the United States, but we didn't give up our efforts in this country.
Guys, okay. I mean, I like his attitude about it. It's like, I don't care. But as far as I know, everyone in Europe is going with Huawei. They're not backing down. Germany's not backing down.
That's because it's cheaper by a lot.
What I did find quite humorous was after coming out of this package, Gail there on CBS this morning. Do you recall the Huawei founder's name again? We talked about it the last show.
No.
What was your take on Mr. Huawei? Because he seemed to have...
Mr. Huawei. And no one blinked an eye. It's like, okay. Mr. Huawei. That's almost kind of racist. I'm just saying.
Well, then she's the racist.
There you go.
I don't get the appeal, for example. I think Morell's, when he says it just gives you more ways to spy on. You mentioned this. You put your little pie hole up, and then you walk past the nest thing, and then start sending signals. He just walked past me.
Yes,
we got him located. He's in the bedroom now.
Yeah.
Why does anybody? I mean, I don't get it. Why does anybody think that this is a good idea to have your house so wired? And I've written about this where I believe the great hacks of the future are going to be somebody who finds somebody with a completely automated house, turning their lights on and off, turning the heat up to 90, and then opening and closing and opening and closing, perpetually opening and closing the garage door.
Oh, that's already happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is what you do. It seems to me this would be the target. If I was one of those kids, bored high schooler that knew how to do all this stuff, and I would be doing. That's what I'd be doing.
Well, I talked to a lot of the kids
by hacking.
I talked to a lot of the kids at the wedding that we were at, because we were definitely the old fogies in the room. These kids don't care. They don't care. They just don't care. They don't care what it is. They don't care about the spine. They don't care about the access. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care. And it doesn't matter what you say. That it's a shrug, like whatever.
Yeah, I get the same thing from my older millennials.
Yeah, and it's all right, kids. We'll be here when you're really down.
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh yeah, that'd be fab. Yeah, on No Agenda in the morning.
And we do have our people to thank, starting with Viscount Sir Donald Borowski. He's the Viscount of Eastern Washington. He's Sir Donald of the Fire Bottles. I wouldn't mention all this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 donation, except that he did send a note with his United Federation of Planets.
Yes, that always deserves a mention. There's nothing wrong with that. He also
uses Star Trek stamps, which I believe are available from the post office.
Nice.
2 random thoughts for this month, he writes. The current narrative is that we are experiencing a global warming, which also causes outbreaks of cold weather, but perhaps we are in a cycle of global cooling with outbreaks of hot weather. Well, this is one of our theses. The EU is the German Fourth Reich, is number 2. It's just out of the blue he says this.
All righty then.
Okay. Thank you for your note.
It's much appreciated. We want our bike back too, believe me.
Sir Daddy Cass at the Love House of Richmond, Virginia, $111.15. He's looking for latching onto the luck of the 11111. John Tucker, $105.10 from Omaha, Nebraska. Ian Field, 100. Sir Greg of Parts Unknown, $99.99. Patrick Funchion, $99.99. It's a birthday donation. I don't know what to get Valerie, the teacher, for her birthday, so I'm hoping you can send her an invisible No Agenda hat.
Oh, yes.
But it needs to be delivered today.
Okay, well, hold on a second. Let me see if I can get you a hat.
Put it in the container.
There you go.
That should be...
Sailed right past.
Jimmy Brown in Southfield, Michigan. 99.15. Looking for the Fear is Freedom clip eventually. Maybe at the end of the show or tomorrow. Richard Hufford, 8008 Boob. Sir Robert Boots, Mechanicsville, Iowa, 8008. Sir Herb Lamb, 8008. William Alston, 8008 in Baltimore, Maryland. He's sending us some weird stuff, he says. Cameron Beck, 5555. Sir Mike Kleckner in Ewing, New Jersey, 5467.
Yeah, he's Kilo Delta 2, Fox Delta X-Ray, 73s.
And 88s.
Yes.
Matthew Derneys, 5432. James Durante, 5223. Sir Baron, Sir Jeffrey of the Placer County via Utopia, 5150. Todd Beeson, 5005. The following people are $50 donors, name and location. If applicable. Todd Beeson doesn't have a location, at least, or he's the 5505. Kenneth Lindbergh in Miami, Florida. Michael Kaufman in Hillsboro, Oregon. Sir Patrick Maycom in New York City. Brad Horwitz in Wautosa, Wisconsin.
And he has a douchebag call out for Oshkosh Bro. Do I have that right? Yes. Oshkosh Bro gets a douchebag from him.
Douchebag.
Alexa Delgado in Aptos, California. Curiously, Julian Robbins in Aptos, California. That's odd. And last but not least, Tyler Moon in Charlotte, North Carolina. I want to thank all these folks for producing show 1115.
Yes, thank you very much.
Remind people that we have another show next Thursday.
Yes. Well, thank you. It is highly appreciated. It's interesting how we're still seeing execs and associate execs a lot heavier on the
Yeah,
on
it's
the
a very
donations.
short list, actually.
Yeah. Did a lot of people's credit cards expire? Did it all end? Or so? Oh, by the way, my credit card got jacked. Of course, that always happens when you're on the road.
How did you get? Where could you isolate where it got jacked?
Nah. Well, I think just in the timeline of when it happened is when we landed in St. Louis. That was the only time I handed my card to somebody. It wasn't in a reader, and that was at Dunkin' Donuts. So that could be the only moment when maybe someone grabbed it there. But, do you have any idea, for the show, too, what's connected to the credit card? This is a nightmare.
Oh, it's just, yeah.
I mean, servers and, subscriptions and software stuff. It's just, although it does give you a chance to pare down on things. It's just when stuff breaks and it's because of a non-payment or they couldn't process the payment and then they can't get a hold of you and then they turn stuff off, it becomes annoying.
Yeah.
It's really disappointing. Anyway, so I want to thank everyone who supported the show for today, 11:15. Also, those who came in under $50, either for reasons of anonymity or if you're on one of our subscriptions, thank you very much for your courage. This is our value for value system. Whatever you think the show is worth, that's what we'd like to receive from you. For many people, it's jingle stories, it's articles, it's stores, shops, it's artwork. But we really love and appreciate the financial support. So again, thank you very much. And we have another show coming up on Thursday. And hopefully we'll be able to discuss the Oscars, which are tonight. I don't even know if we can watch the Oscars from here. They go no.
They're illegal in Iowa.
There's no cable here. They have an
OTA, over the air.
Yeah, there's over the air, but the channels. I'm trying to figure out what channel it would be on, and it says
it's ABC.
Yeah, it says in their little book. Depending on the weather, you may not be able to receive all the channels. And of course, it's we've got a blizzard here. We got snow, so I haven't been able to get ABC. We'll see if we can work it out. And otherwise. Oh, well, I'm sure Tina and I can find something else to do. Hey, remember us at
Dvorak.org/NA. Jobs, 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 and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
And here's your birthday list for today. It is February 24th, 2019. Sir Cal says happy birthday to his 25-year-old milky wife, Janet. Happy birthday from us as well. Sir Puffunk, I believe, Patrick Function says happy birthday to his smoking hot partner, Valerie. James Truancy turned 41 yesterday. And Sir Wukash Lucas Ziwa says happy birthday to his daughter, Marie Stella. She turns 3. Happy birthday from everybody here at the best podcast in the universe. And we got nights. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nights. Luckily, we all know that I've got my blade with me already. Do you have your...
I got mine right here.
Okay, beautiful. All right. Tim, Rick, David Alston, Roberto Mendez, Paul Richardson, Dave Albrecht. Gentlemen, come on up to the podium right next to the round table of the No Agenda Knights and Dames because you have reached a status and a spot at this table well-deserved for your support of the No Agenda Show in the amount of $1,000 or more. And I'm very pleased to pronosticate thee Sir Mother Trucker of the Midwest, Sir David Alston, Sir He Him, Sir Cutudis, Root of the Scooter Clubs, and Sir Dude Named Dave, Doer of Deeds of the Great Plains. Gentlemen, for you, we've got Hookers and Blow, Rent Boys and Chardonnay. We got Spreadsheets and Ghost Guns, Cookies and Vodka, Parliaments and Pale Ale, Brown Cheese and Aquavit and Smalaho, Pepperoni Pale and Pale Ale, Sparkling Cider and Escorts, Ginger Ale and Gerbils, Breast Milk and Pablum and Mutton and Mead. Just go to noagendanation.com/rings. Eric the Shill will take all your information and get your ring off as soon as possible. A lot of night rings at the meetup here, by the way. A lot of them. Very cool to see. Just everyone like, hey, night ring here, night ring there.
Night ring.
Dame with a night ring around her, with a dame ring around her neck. I mean, it's just fantastic. So much fun. Reminder about our meetups. We have the Austin, Texas meetup, March 2nd, 3:33 p.m. That'll be at Austin Beer Works in Austin. And on the 3rd, Arlington, Virginia. This is at the Cafe Pizzailo in... Is that Arlington, I believe? Arlington, Virginia. Cafe Pizzailo, I think. Pizzailo. Anyway, go to noagendameetups.com, and that's where you can get all of the information. And make sure you tag us when you go and when you tweet. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of people at the Texas meetup. And thank you.
Challenge.
Yes, it is a challenge. And thank you to Aaroner. NoAgendaSocial.com is back up and running. Very happy. We're patched. We're secure. We're good to go.
Patched.
Patched. We are patched, baby. Patched.
So even though we thought he was always running. Oh, by the way, just before we go into the next segment, I want to talk about credit cards and they have been stolen. This still works as far as I know. I was told this at a lecture I heard from the then CEO of American Express. And people can try it. And the trick is if you want to get your card pulled out of the blue, you buy 2 tanks of gas.
Oh, yes.
In other words, you buy
I know
tank
this
full
one.
of gas and then another tank full of gas.
And then aren't you supposed to buy sneakers?
Then you go buy sneakers.
It's like, okay, done. All done.
Your card will get pulled instantly because it's believed that a lot of kids who steal a credit card, the first thing they do is fill up their car, and then they fill up their buddy's car, and then they go get some expensive sneakers at Foot Locker.
Well, what they did on my card is the first thing. So I get text messages immediately, and it says, fraud alert. You have to text yes or no. So did you buy something from AM Depot for $18? I'm like, hey, I don't know. I mean, did I buy anything online? So I go looking, ammunition depot. I'm like, no, but I actually said no just to make sure. I'm like, $18, I don't, because I know what happens. The minute you say yes, your card is frozen. They stop it, and you got to go through the whole rigmarole. So I'm like, no, it's okay. Then it's, did you buy $150 worth of makeup from L'Oreal? I'm like, okay, no, this is not me. And when I'm on the phone with the fraud detection lady, she says, there's like 5 charges coming in now. They're just rolling in one after another. So what they do is they test the card, so that $18 from the online AM Depot, that was actually refunded, which tells them that the AM Depot people may be complicit in the scam. It's like a whole bunch of stuff going on with that. But anyway, cash for Adam here.
It's out of control.
And I'm lucky because, at some places these days, you can't even pay with cash anymore. And I think we've been following the legislation that has been going on regarding this. And it looks like some states actually want to outlaw card-only businesses.
There's a lot of restaurants and other business that want to go cashless.
John Longstreet is the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association. Do you see an upside to cashless?
Absolutely, because places that handle cash are less safe than those that don't have cash on hand. Everything is reported directly into the accounting system. Taxes are paid, whereas in a cash society, taxes aren't always paid.
What he doesn't say is that the most important...
Wait, stop. How does in other words, what he's talking about is skimming or money laundering.
Or
how does that make you less safe?
Or, well, it depends.
He says it's about safety. And then he says you don't pay your taxes. Wait.
But the question is safety of who? He's talking about
the government.
He's talking about the store owners, that they're safe from their employees messing up who millennials can't count, stealing money, cash disappearing. That's what he's saying. It's not about you, the consumer. It's about the business owner.
Well,
and consumers are getting used to it too as well.
See, and now he talks about consumers. No, it's about the retail owner. That's for their safety. Screw the consumer.
Well, and they're asking for it.
Cash is not accepted at Bluestone Lane Coffee.
They're not asking for it. Who's asking for it?
Who's asking for what?
He says the consumers are asking for it. We consumers don't want cash.
Yeah, that's true. I really believe that to be true. Yes.
Does that include you?
No, but I'm
it
not.
It doesn't include me.
Yeah, but it's the majority. It's the same people who don't care about privacy get very antsy when they're standing behind you and you pay cash and someone has to make change and they're like, hurry up, he's got to go faster. Can't you just swipe it? It's so much easier for everybody. Move the line along.
Used to it too as well, and they're asking for it.
Cash is not accepted at Bluestone Lane Coffee and at Sweetgreen, the salad chain. Together, they have 6 stores in Philadelphia. Nationwide, Dos Toros, Dig In, and Tender Greens now refuse paper money. Reportedly, Milk Bar, Starbucks, Amazon, Walmart, and Shake Shack have experimented with cashless stores recently. And that trend worries Philadelphia Councilman Bill Greenlee.
I go in and get a cup of coffee. I can get it because I have a credit card, but the person behind me that doesn't have a credit card is told they can't get a cup of coffee. There's something that doesn't seem right about that.
According to the federal government, more than 14 million Americans don't have bank accounts. That makes getting credit cards difficult. A recent survey by the Pew Research Center found that 34% of black people, 17% of Hispanics, and 29% of people earning less than $30,000 rely on cash.
This is the part that I like the most. Any store that is going cashless is racist. And they need to be told that they are racist. Because you don't hear a single politician about this now, do you? That it's racist.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, racist.
For all or just about all of their purchases.
If it's not discrimination, it's elitism. I think government does have a place to protect people from not being treated fairly.
Councilman Greenlee has introduced a bill that will fine businesses in Philadelphia up to $2,000 if they don't accept cash. Similar laws have been proposed in New York City, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. A statewide ban on cashless stores is awaiting the governor's signature in New Jersey. And Massachusetts has required retailers to accept cash since 1978.
There you go.
Well, good.
How about a Venezuela update?
I have one, and I have the one from Saturday.
All right, let's go.
The National Guard tear gassed protesters from both Venezuela and Colombia who tried to reach bridges between the two countries. The clashes happened in the bordering cities of Ureña in Venezuela and Cúcuta in Colombia. On the Colombian side of the bridges, opposition protesters tried to escort trucks with emergency food and medical aid into Venezuela using what leaders call a humanitarian avalanche. On the Venezuelan side of the border, the Venezuelan National Guard injured more than 24 people as protesters set fire to buses. Earlier, opposition leader Juan Guaido appeared in Cúcuta with the presidents of Colombia and Paraguay and called on troops and supporters of Maduro to allow the aid into Venezuela. The New York Times' Andes bureau chief Nicholas Casey joins us now from Cúcuta, Colombia via Skype.
So basically, the opposition's been trying to get food past Nicolas Maduro's blockade at the borders, and they haven't been able to. They've amassed hundreds of people on some of the bridges. It looks like there's been thousands. But Maduro has been pretty strict about not letting the full number of aid shipments get in.
You know, Nicolas Maduro this afternoon severed basically all diplomatic and political ties with Colombia. He's saying, look, this is a staging ground for violence against Venezuelans.
And this is huge because Colombia and Venezuela have been at loggerheads many times before. They've even had troops on their borders during Hugo Chavez's time. And for Maduro to come out and withdraw all the diplomats, severing ties to the country right next to you is a big deal.
Now, from what I understand, at least I got that from the Intercepted podcast with Jeremy Scahill, is that that bridge that they say Maduro is keeping blocked off, that bridge has never been open, and there's another bridge a couple of miles south or north that is open for business, but for some reason they're kind of staging this protest at this bridge that has never actually been functionally working.
Well, to be honest about it, I think that the New York Times reporter who was there, that was given the last part of that report on PBS, would have mentioned that if they could, maybe they tried that early, or maybe it was, who knows? But I don't believe.
It's definitely
Skyhill's part of that whole group that thinks this whole thing is a coup, is a scam.
Well,
what is a coup?
Well, normally normally when you want to do something like this, when you need to distract and get this going, who do you call?
Clooney.
You've got something going on and you need a distraction. Call Clooney. Call Clooney.
I'm sad to report that this jingle will not be played very often in the future. It seems like Clooney is out, but we have a new guy in, none other than Richard Branson.
So what we hope is to draw attention to what's going on in Venezuela, to get much needed relief supplies into Venezuela. And we're hoping that this wonderful, happy, free concert will result in the soldiers on this bridge opening the bridge, and hopefully tomorrow allowing supplies into the country.
So Richard Branson is called in to put on a free concert at the border in Colombia.
Yeah.
This is
I heard this.
This is an interesting strategy. It's going to be streamed live. Hey, man, we made it work for Live Aid. We can probably do it again. Where's Bob? Where's Bob Geldof? It's him. And I got to see. Well, of course, the guy behind this is the neocon supreme in the White House, still very confused what he's doing there. Walrus face John Bolton.
We're in conversation with major American companies now that are either in Venezuela or, in the case of Citgo, here in the United States. I think we're trying to get to the same end result here. You know, Venezuela is one of the three countries I call the troika of tyranny. It'll make a big difference to the United States economically if we could have American oil companies really invest in and produce the oil capabilities in Venezuela.
There you go.
I wonder what he's getting out of this.
He's not, well, you see what happened. It's like he's not mentioned in any sex, human trafficking massage parlor schemes.
We do have the human trafficking things is picking up again with Julie Brown from the Miami Herald talking about the Epstein thing.
Well, also the Kraft guy getting busted.
Well, let's play the Kraft busted thing because I think this is funnier.
I think there's something interesting happening here.
Back in this country, police in Jupiter, Florida, are charging the owner of the New England Patriots football team, Robert Kraft, with soliciting prostitution. They say that he was captured on camera at an illicit massage parlor as part of a crackdown on sex trafficking. The charge is a misdemeanor. The 77-year-old Kraft denied any wrongdoing today.
Is this Judy? Judy is
the charge is a misdemeanor. Why are they making such a national case out of it?
Well, I'll tell you why. It's because, first of all, it's Kraft, so he's buddies with Trump.
They also hate him in Florida because they keep beating the Miami Dolphins. That's notable.
And this is very close to Mar-a-Lago. We have the Epstein thing bubbling under. People are positioning that they can't come out and say anything just yet. But this human trafficking thing is what is getting almost ignored because of some guy there getting a hand job from a massage parlor worker. What I think is interesting is these are all Chinese run. Chinese operated. The massage therapists are Chinese. I mean, this is a huge network, in my opinion.
You might be right. And you might be right.
And it's just all that's lacking on the outside of these massage places is happy ending guaranteed. Otherwise, it's all right. It's being advertised almost on the front door. And they make a big deal out of this guy, but how about what's actually happening? The Chinese are taking... By the way, there's Chinese all over Des Moines. There's a Chinese pizzeria.
Oh, God. Best price.
Best price. We went there yesterday. It was pretty interesting.
You had a pizza?
Yeah, it's complete Chinese motif. And they got 3 of them in Iowa. It's called Fong's Pizza.
Fong's Pizza?
Fong's Pizza.
You should have taken some photos.
We'll take one. It's right around the corner.
Well, how's the pizza?
The pizza was pretty good. They had luckily on the menu just a regular kind of pizza. But you can get all kinds of crazy stuff on your pizza. And we took a few Ubers, and I'm asking, this
Chow Fun Pizza?
What's that?
Chow Fun Pizza.
Chow Fun? No, I don't know. Is this a joke I'm missing? Chow Fun? Yeah, I'm sorry. No.
Well, let's catch up with Epstein then. I got the Julie Brown on PBS. She's the one who wrote the article in the Miami Herald. She brought it back to the fore, and they asked her about why she did it and all the rest. And you have to wonder, because there's another things going on in Florida.
Boggles the mind, though, why it took so long to come to light. So just start there. Tell us, how did you first learn about this story? Why did you start to dig at it the way you did?
Well, the pieces of this story, the outline of this story had been known for many, many years. A lot of journalists had written about this deal, sort of scratching their heads about how could something like this happen. And when Alexander Acosta, the Miami U.S. attorney in Miami, was nominated by President Trump last year as labor secretary, or in 2017 rather, as labor secretary, I sort of wanted to hear what he was going to say when he would be asked about this case. And I was kind of astonished that he wasn't asked much about it at all, and the answers that he did give really weren't responsive to the questions he was asked. And so I thought, it's been a long time. This was before the Me Too movement. But I kept thinking, I wonder what these victims, these girls at the time, they were 13, 14, 15, now in their late 20s and 30s, are thinking about the fact that he has advanced so far in his career after, in essence, in their minds, betraying them. So I set about trying to find out who these victims were, and eventually convinced just a handful of them, quite frankly, to go public. But I spoke to many more than a handful of them.
And the details that they share in those interviews with you are just so incredible, jaw-dropping, and the consistencies across so many of their stories. I want to share actually just a quick piece of one interview from one of the women you interviewed. Her name is Virginia Roberts, and here's what she told you used to happen at Epstein's house.
Okay. It stopped there.
Yeah, the thing that there's a reason I wanted to stop there, and I can't remember what that reason was.
Well, let me take it from here for a second. What I think this is about, and we've been, the Lolita Express and Epstein, and how the judges, let Epstein off with a very, very light sentence for effectively being a pedophile. Effectively, I don't know if he actually had to agree to that. This is all about Trump. They desperately, desperately, desperately want to take down Trump, even if it means they have to take down Bill Clinton, possibly Hillary Clinton. And I think the one thing in the mix is the constitutional lawyer, who was also accused of being involved in this Epstein child sex scandal, Dershowitz. And I think they're afraid because Dershowitz is threatening continuously whenever he's on television, if they let him on television. He's saying, go ahead, please get some stuff going because I will sue all of you. But it's all happening around this one area. It's all Mar-a-Lago. It's all about Trump. They want to nail this guy. I don't think they can. He may actually not be complicit, although evidence suggests otherwise, flight logs, etc. I think that's what this is about.
I'm not going to say it's not. And this is all happening in Florida, and I think the Kraft thing is part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But let's listen to what one of the women say, and this is what brings more questions than answers, as far as I'm concerned.
With sexual abuse and intercourse, and then a pat on the back. You've done a really good job. Thank you very much, and here's $200. Before you know it, I'm being lent out to politicians and to academics and to people royalty and people that you would never think, how did you get into that position of power in the first place if you're this disgusting, evil, decrepit person on the inside?
Julie, women like Virginia lived for over a decade, knowing that the U.S. attorney, Alex Acosta in this case, declined to prosecute the man who abused them. When you first approached them, were they willing to talk to you?
No, that was probably the hardest part, trying to convince them to trust me, because a lot, as I mentioned, there has been a lot written about the case. They have never really spoken publicly because, quite frankly, they felt that their story really had never been told. So part of what I did was I did some homework on it. I interviewed some sexual assault survivors and some counselors to try to prepare me, not to interview them in such a way as to get to the root of their trauma without re-traumatizing them, which was, a delicate balance.
Now, has she done actual more? Because they started writing this, a couple months ago. Has she done extra stuff that we haven't read before? Are there any new revelations, or is she just recycling?
I don't think so.
I think it's just recycling
the story along.
It's recycling, right?
Yes, the way I'm looking at it.
Well, then there's a reason for it.
A couple of things that came to mind. One is that she says there's a lot of royalty.
Yes, the prince from Monaco, I believe. The bald guy.
Yeah, I think some Brits.
Yeah.
And business guys and politicians. Well, I have two things. One, she should name names.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why that hasn't happened. And if she doesn't name names, I mean, she should name names for the one sole reason, not to get killed, because she's holding these names back. Seems to me.
Yeah. Well,
I think these women have their lives at risk if they don't name names and get it out of the system and say, hey, I already and you can't stop me now because I already did it. That kind of thing. I don't know what the logic is.
Well,
here.
but in the articles I've read, the Monaco Prince Albert, I guess it was Albert.
Was he?
I think it's Albert. I think it was Albert. And there's continuous Dershowitz stories.
Yeah.
And these are these now women are saying that these are the guys that they serviced. So I don't know. I still think it's all about Trump. They just want to get it down to Trump.
Yeah, it's about Trump. It's
gotta
always
be.
about Trump.
It's gotta
they got to
be.
get rid of this guy for some reason. I'd like to know what is the real reason. Is he a known money launderer? I mean, which is a possibility since he's a real estate guy, and it's a money laundering mechanism that is pretty hard to do anything about.
I don't know.
Or you could just go all the way with these, which I think is total bullshit, but play Trump as the Russian asset clip with Clapper.
Hold on. I must have missed this during my travels.
Do you agree with Andrew McKay that it's possible that the president of the United States, the president, is a Russian asset?
Well, the way I completely agree with the way Andy characterized it, that it is a possibility, and I would add to that, caveat that, whether witting or unwitting. And that is a really painful thing.
Kim, hold on. This is his favorite word, witting or unwitting. I think it was wittingly. When he was asked if the NSA spied on the American people, his answers were, no, not wittingly. What is this wittingly word he likes to use? What does wittingly actually mean?
It means knowingly or unknowingly. In other words, he knows he is, or he doesn't know he is, but he is.
All right. Well, I find it an odd word.
That whether witting or unwitting. And that is a really painful thing to say. But I believe the FBI was institutionally obligated to do what it did, and that is to investigate and to initiate an investigation. And if you go back, the long view here of the behavior of the candidate Trump and then President Trump and his deference to the Russians, and particularly his personal deference to Putin, and his exhortation about the emails in July of 2016, and then all these developments culminating in the firing of Director Comey, which he acknowledged was because of the Russian investigation. So, I do agree, as amazing and stunning and depressing as that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's nothing. Did you hear Michael Steele, his accusation against the president?
No, I have not. You have it?
This is fantastic. We had I don't know if it was a 6-week cycle, and we don't really know exactly all the details other than the FBI bravely stopped a white nationalist from killing news people and celebrities. And he had an arsenal of weapons.
Oh, did he now?
Yes, he had an arsenal of weapons, and he had a spreadsheet. And we've not seen any spreadsheet. We've seen some guns, which looks like, honestly, any one of our no agenda producers in the Midwest would probably have this arsenal. It wasn't, it's not all that huge, but okay. The guy had some guns, and immediately.
Hold on, their giveaway is where they all different guns. Because there are gun collectors out there. You go out shooting with them. That's why these people attract a lot of friends, because it's fun to go shoot with a gun collector. They got all these different kinds of guns.
Well, that's a good question.
Some guy's got a this and a that and a this and a that. He's got a bunch of different guns. What's the point? It's not an arsenal for shooting anybody. It's just a collection of guns he likes to shoot.
Well, so I don't know. All we know is that the story was we got this guy. Luckily, we got him way before he was able to act out on his spreadsheet.
No,
and that was the story. Now, you didn't even hear about this, did you?
No, I missed it.
But, of course, what is the problem here is when you have a white nationalist who apparently was going to kill people as president, you immediately, like within 10 minutes, have to denounce this. If you don't denounce it, well, then you know what you are, don't you? You're
a horrible white nationalist yourself.
Michael Steele was the guy in charge of the Republican National Committee, and now he's on MSNBC as a commentator. Listen to what he said about the president.
He's the black guy, right?
Yes, the black guy. Listen to what he said about the president not responding to this story, which you didn't even hear about.
So why would we be surprised that a self-proclaimed nationalist would not speak out against a self-proclaimed white nationalist? Why are we acting like this is a space that Donald Trump is going to go in on behalf of the American ideal? No, he's not. And these are his people. All right. And he's not going to thank law enforcement because he's probably not happy about what law enforcement did.
Is that where we are?
That's where we are.
So just so you know, he's probably not happy that law enforcement stopped this guy this white nationalist from killing people. So the president is not happy about that. You just let that sink in for a second and then realize what Nicole Wallace says.
Law enforcement did.
Is that where we are?
That's where we are. I mean, I call the space where we are. I mean, I'm just not going to try to dress it up and be all, pie in the sky and hopeful that, maybe in the next incident, Donald Trump will actually get it right, that he will have matured in his presidency enough to act like a president.
But that's a brave thing to say. Let me just draw you out on that.
That's so brave of you to say.
If he carried out his attacks, what do you think the president would have done?
Well, that's the next test in all of this. That's a very good question, and it's absolutely the next test because we can sit here and honestly say we would hope that there would be the appropriate level of outrage and pushback and all hands on deck. To your point about the Justice Department and those responding, but here we sit and we have a little question mark over the little thought bubble is a question mark. I don't know what he would do, and that's the sad spot about all of this.
The president is not happy with law enforcement for stopping a white nationalist from killing people. Thank you.
Jeez.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you, Michael Steele. I feel so much safer now.
I don't know what Michael Steele does anymore, but
he's a commentator on MSNBC. That's what he does.
I guess.
That's what he does. Just as a fun little joke, since no one else will do it, the best podcast in the universe might as well. I'm sure that tonight during the Oscars there will be some references to Jussie Smollett. I have a feeling.
I hope not.
Yeah, you kind of got to expect it, though. I just want to remind you when it turned out that, as far as I haven't seen any more updates, that Jussie Smollett orchestrated this whole hoax by himself, which is egregious. Here's a shorter version of what we played on the previous show, what Don Lemon, the overnight sensation, had to say, because, of course, he doesn't really know Jussie. He's not. He was on the set, and he accepted the compliments from Jussie about how great Don is. But, he said, really, it's not really a friend of mine. I don't really know him.
I know him. Not best friends, but I do know him. So I spoke to him while he was at the hospital. His friend who was there texted me in the middle of the night and said, hey, this happened to Jussie. I called a friend. The friend happened to be there, and Jussie said, oh, Jussie's here. Here's the phone. So he told me in his own words what he said happened. But I've also got to tell you, to be quite honest, that a lot of people, including people in the community,
which would mean Don himself,
people of color and gay people, had questions about this from the very beginning.
So we heard his skepticism and Don, doesn't really know Jussie, but really people in the community just very skeptical. Let's go back a week before that when Don Lemon was with Jada Pinkett Smith, the wife of Will Smith, and she has a show called the Red Table Talk, which is where you have to be real. You can sit at the red table, but you got to be real. You got to be real. You got to be honest about your relationship. And this was when we only knew that Jussie had been attacked by two white MAGA countries Trump supporters. And this is how Don talked about Jussie then.
When you first heard about the incident with Jussie, what was your initial reaction?
My initial reaction was sadness.
Wait, I thought it was skepticism. I must be wrong.
I wasn't shocked. I didn't like that it happened to him. I called him because we have mutual friends. I got the friend on the phone. The friend talked to me for a minute. He goes, Jussie's here. I'm seeing the doctor, and I talked to Jussie for a minute. And then he said, I got to go to the doctor's here. And it just made me sad. So every day, I say, I know you think I'm annoying. I can show you a text. I know you think I'm annoying, but I just want to know that you're doing.
Oh, okay.
That you're okay.
Yeah.
If you need somebody, you can talk to me, because there are not a lot of us out there.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Sometimes he responds, sometimes he doesn't. He responds and says, you are not annoying.
Amazing.
Well, that's a different story.
While Don was skeptical and the whole community was skeptical, he kept texting Jussie saying that I'm here for you. You're not alone. I'm here for you. Hey, Lemon.
Bullshit. Terrible.
Yeah, well.
Well, Bernie finally came out of the
closet
shadows and decided to announce. And there was a good little rundown on PBS because they brought in Shields and Brooks. And Shields actually had very interesting observations about Bernie.
And is this the
Bernie Sanders announced PBS?
Front, Mark, we have a new entrant. Bernie Sanders announced officially this week he's going to run again for president. But this time it's a little different, isn't it?
It's a lot different, Judy. I mean, but the very same people who wrote Bernie Sanders off in 2015 in our profession are writing him off again in 2019. Bernie Sanders is cranky. Bernie Sanders is not well-groomed. Bernie Sanders just connects with voters. I mean, in 2015, the summer of 2015, he, on successive nights in Portland, Seattle, and Los Angeles, this is August of 2015, drew crowds of 27,500, 15,000, and 28,000 into arenas. I mean, the idea of a Democratic event in Los Angeles is basically dinner at George Clooney's house with Steven Spielberg and Barbara Streisand singing. And
for some.
Yeah, no, but Democrats don't do big events. And Bernie connected. And I just point out that he raised $135 million in small contributions. I mean, he really changed it. He raised $50 million more than Donald Trump did.
Is he running as a Democrat? Is that known yet? Is he going to run as an independent?
Well, the Democratic Party has to deal with this Democrat socialism thing, so we don't know.
And don't they have some kind of rule change I keep reading about that will make it very difficult for Bernie?
Yeah. No, he's going to have to be a pure Democrat if he's going to run. But, whether he gets that far or not. But I think his point was well taken. And I never thought about it much, that the Democrats don't draw big crowds, because that wasn't the case with Roosevelt.
That's true. Well, we also never saw a lot of the Bernie big crowds.
Oh, that was the media. Yeah. They weren't going to show us anything.
Yeah.
So we never found, which would have, who knows what would have happened. I have one last clip.
Okay.
Which is Wall's talk, the PBS clip with a kicker.
Will I veto it? 100%. 100%. And I don't think it survives a veto. We have too many smart people that want border security, so I can't imagine it could survive a veto, but I will veto it, yes.
Later, in a visit to Laredo, Texas, Speaker Nancy Pelosi said there is no national emergency and that Mr. Trump created a crisis.
We will be fighting him on this usurping of power, of violating the Constitution of the United States in the Congress, in the courts, and with the American people. So this is a path I would not recommend he go down. I don't expect him to sign it, but I do expect us to send it.
Meanwhile, Pentagon officials briefed congressional staffers today on how they might implement the president's order. Lisa Desjardins spent part of her day at the Pentagon, and she joins me now. So, Lisa, what are you learning about when the Pentagon plans to try to implement what the president wants?
I spoke to the same senior Pentagon officials who briefed Congress. They told me this. Right now, they are assessing exactly what projects that are needed at the border. They're working with the Department of Homeland Security on that. They think within weeks they will have that list. Then, Judy, to my question about timing, they said they think within months they hope to be ready through an expedited process to begin some construction.
So if they're going to take this money and use it to build a border wall, where is it coming from?
Well, there are two large parts from the Department of Defense. One has to deal with how they fight drug trafficking.
Build a wall!
Yeah, that's right. 10 U.S. Code 284. Your No Agenda.
We covered this on the show.
Your No Agenda show nails it again. Not to pat myself on the back.
Before anyone even discussed it.
That's right. All right, everybody. We'll do more of that on Thursday. And reminder that Saturday is the big Austin, Texas meetup. I want to thank Des Moines, Iowa, and all of the surrounding areas and all the producers and dames and knights and barons and dukes and earls who came in. It was great to see you all. And thanks to Danny Luce, Secret Agent Paul, Tom Starkweather for the end of show mixes. Looking forward to being back on Thursday. We'll be back at in the Cludio. Until then, coming to you from, I think we're in FEMA Region 7 here, if I'm not mistaken. In the morning, everybody, I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where it's going to rain some more. So much for the drought. I'm John C. Dvorak.
We return on Thursday right here on No Agenda. NoAgendaShow.com. Remember us to support us at Dvorak.org/NA. Until Thursday, adios, mofos, and such.
Good news. For our people. No. Agenda. Live. Thursday.
And
Sunday. In the morning.
Just like the band, they sued us in the Ninth Circuit, and we lost, and then we lost in the appellate division. Just like the band, then be sued, and they will sue us in the Ninth Circuit, even though it shouldn't be there, and we will possibly get a bad ruling, and then we'll get another bad ruling, and then we'll end up in the Supreme Court, and hopefully we'll get a fair shake, appellate division.
You even look at, the fact that this...
They sued us in the Ninth Circuit, and then we respected her. That's being cast aside.
You're black, you're uneducated. New York City's first African-American schools chancellor.
And then by norms, give us an example or two. And we're lost in the appellate division circuit, even though it shouldn't be there.
Every level
and then we'll get another bad ruling, and then he sued us in the Ninth Circuit, and then we'll get another bad ruling.
Well, you look at it's on every level.
They could ask for more money.
Yesterday,
Marisol Meraji reports.
McClendon says his parents taught him there's a
beginning. They could ask for more money.
We'll have a national emergency. In the Ninth Circuit, even though it shouldn't be there.
You're with your little friend. You can speak any way you want to speak, all right?
Emergency, and we will then be sued.
Well, the minute you get in a spelling bee or...
even though it shouldn't be there, and we will be sued.
The fact that this country built most court decisions.
Get a bad ruling.
You're in a job interview. Switch it up quick.
We will possibly get a bad ruling.
If the international circus, if there was enough, we have. But we see the president stop the president because he's
Supreme Court.
Time and a place to use acts.
But at the end of the day, they're backing him. They're backing. Come on.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, John, if someone wants to get anyone, they can get him.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, it's more important that we have entertainment.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
So, at the end of the day, who's going to pay for the real loan? It's going to be taxpayer money.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
Because at the end of the day, that's going to be up to Valerie Jarrett.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
I mean, at the end of the day, isn't that it?
At the end of the day,
At the end of the day, all this money is owed to bankers.
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day, I think it's good.
At the end of the day,
At the end of the day, as Americans, what we always do is we always say,
at the end of the day.
So at the end of the day, it's not actually the health care, it's the...
At the end of the day,
At the end of the day, you can't deny I had to put less gas in.
At the end of the day.
So at the end of the day, we're all anti-Semites.
At the end of the day,
At the end of the day, you get, I think it's 4%.
At the end of the day.
Starts to run together at the end of the day, and you kind of forget, right? And then...
At the end of the day,
You know, John, you and I are both in the audience business at the end of the day.
At the end of the day.
So at the end of the day, she can say, hey, I told you so.
At the end of the day, But I don't say at the end of the day. I said it once, I think, ever.
So, ladies and gentlemen, please rise for your Gitmo Nation National Anthem.
In the morning, Gitmo Nation, we are all charged up to be human resources and service in all lands and all ships at sea. From the east to west, down under to the lowlands and beyond. We are happy and distracted slaves. Hear our Gitmo Nation song. The best podcast in the universe.
Adios, mofo.
Dvorak.org/NA.
To Rakeover.